The big news today, according to the New York Times, Biden has told allies he will be potentially resigning. He is considering dropping out. And we're also hearing rumors, and this one's it's rumors for now. We're actually hearing Biden might resign outright from the presidency. That seems a bit more bold. However, Biden is reportedly denying everything, giving a statement saying outright, no one is pushing me out. I am not going anywhere, and I'm going to win this race. I don't know if he's going to win it, but the White House is officially denying the story. So this is the big news. The other big news is everyone's already on vacation. So I hope you guys are wherever you need to be for the 4th of July so you can have those burgers, hot dogs, and, floaties in the lake or the pool, whatever it is you guys are doing for the 4th of July. But we're going to get into all that news. Before we do, my friends, head over to MyPillow.com and use promo code TIM. Big shout out to Mike Lindell. We're big fans. All you guys, you know him. You know Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy. They don't have the support of their big box stores anymore. Cancel culture, when he came out and defended Donald Trump and challenged the election, of course, he got nuked by everybody. So certainly been a part of cancel culture, and they want to pass their savings on to you with a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was a problem solution one product company. Well, since then, with the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products, some you may not even know about. To get the word out, they're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. 6-pack towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels. You guessed it, $25. And for the first time ever, actually it's like the 5th or 6th because we've done a bunch of these promo spots for MyPillow. Shout out. The premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size and loft level, even king size, just $25. The offer is not going to last long, so go to MyPillow.com, use promo code TIM, or call 1-800-925-9096. And again, big shout out to Mike Lindell. He's going to be speaking with us at the RNC, our Thursday, July 18th event. If you haven't gotten your tickets already, go to Timcast.com, click the banner, buy your tickets now. I don't know how many are left. It might be sold out, but definitely go check if you want to hang out with us live. Mike Lindell, Luke Rutkowski, Hannah Claire Brimolo, Libby Emmons, me. We will be at the RNC. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're really excited. We won't be at the DNC because, to be honest, I've grown quite fond of living. And so we will stay far, far away from that disaster zone. And other than that, click join us, become a member to support our work directly because this show is made possible mostly because of viewers like you who become members and support our efforts and our work. So if you like the things that we do, you want to see more of it, click join us, become a member. You'll get access to our Discord server. You'll get to join in for our members-only uncensored shows where you can call in. So you definitely want to sign up now. We're back next week. We're off tomorrow and Friday, and there is no uncensored show tonight because we actually have to run out the door. We're going to travel to see family. But we do have this show for you tonight, so you don't want to miss it. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all of your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Daniel Turner.
It's awesome to be here, and especially the day before 4th of July, which I love. Daniel Turner, Power of the Future, oil, gas, coal, fossil fuel issues, and also a shepherd, sheep farmer of Virginia's preeminent sheep farm, and great to be here with y'all. Thank you.
Right on.
I was just thinking, I'm glad I never called you Daniel Shepherd. I was like, he's actually a shepherd, isn't he? You have sheep, you shepherd them around. That's wild, dude.
I do.
You're like the only shepherd I know.
I think you have to start with Shepherd because that way it's like Captain Daniel. It'll be Shepherd Daniel.
Did you introduce yourself?
I'm Ian Crossley. If you don't know, get to know me now. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, I'm glad we're all here. I'm so excited for Independence Day. It's one of my favorite holidays. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Follow them at Timcast News on the internet. Kellen's with us.
Yeah, what's up, Hannah Claire? Filling in for Serge today, and he'll be back next week. But let's get started, guys.
Have you guys changed your profile photos to American flags yet?
I'm wearing one.
I know,
but
what about your profile picture on social media?
No, am I supposed to do that tomorrow?
MAGA month.
I don't think I'm going to do it.
On MAGA month, all the companies are supposed to change their profile pictures to American flags, remember?
I'm too counterculture.
That's what
for
we
that.
do.
So your farm has to change its profile picture.
I don't change my profile picture ever for any month, but if you want me to change it in
you can do whatever you want.
July?
You don't like America? You don't want to change it? Interesting. I also haven't done it yet, but I'm just waiting to take the appropriate American flag picture. So
I have a red, white, and blue like graphene picture. It's like graphene
that's true.
in a dye, a 20-sided die.
A couple years ago, everyone's talking about Pride Month. All these companies changed their profile pictures. And I was thinking, like, why aren't they changing their pictures for Independence Day, like for an American flag? None of them do that. That's insane to me. So why don't we do it? It's MAGA month. It's a Make America Great Again month. That's what we're going to do.
But when it's in your heart, though, it's every day of the year, so you don't have to change your profile.
That you don't have to if you don't want to. But my view actually is the reason they do the pride flag thing is intentionally to attack culture.
Yeah.
And to force all the other companies to fall in line. And so you need a counterculture to say America instead. And now we've seen a lot of these companies dump those flags from their bios and their profiles. American flags it is, but you do you. Let's jump to the news. We got this from the post-millennial breaking New York Times report. Says Biden is considering bowing out of the race. White House claims the story is false. I don't believe them. I think they have to say that because Biden's got a lot of donors who have already put up money. But I think behind the scenes, they know what the plan is. The plan is an open convention. Biden might, there's rumors actually going around right now on X, Biden might resign. And these are Beltway people. I'll pull up the tweet in a second, saying he's actually planning to resign the presidency in a week. That seems a bit bold. So I don't know that I believe that would happen.
Who said that?
Tom Fitton tweeted that. We'll pull that one up next, though. But for now, we'll get through this. Biden reportedly told an ally that he may not be able to salvage his campaign if he is unable to convince the public in the coming days that he is still able to do the job. The ally stressed that Biden is still in the fight for re-election, but understands that his next few appearances will be critical. One of those interviews will take place with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News on Friday, and it's going to be an edited interview probably.
Yeah, it's not live, they've already said.
Yep, heavily edited, and keep an eye on the clock behind Joe Biden's head because it's going to be bouncing around like crazy. You know?
Will it be between 10 and 4 in that time frame? So it will be 10 in the morning to 4 p.m.
Watch the sun coming in through the window. Well, if it's going to be critical, I guarantee he's not rolling a 20. He's going to roll a 1.
The White House has said, no, everything's fine. He's running, and that they're planning to bring him out in front of people more. And I almost wonder, I don't think you understand what the problem is. But it's almost impossible, right? Because if he stays in the shadows and doesn't talk to anybody, then we all kind of know what's going on. And if he's in front of people, they run the risks of gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. I was listening to this interview with I think his name's Jim Zogby. He's involved with the DNC. He's been there for 30 years, and he was presenting like a path forward for a Joe Biden-less election. And one of the things he said was like, from now on out, the whole media is just going to point out every single time he stumbles, every time he breathes heavily, every time he walks weirdly. And it makes me want to be like, I know we've already been talking about it for like a year. It's almost amazing how much of a shock all of this is to a lot of Democrats.
Well, the White House damage control is late. I mean, they tried to do some saving grace right after the debate. They went to that Waffle House impromptu. Jill Biden gave that really condescending, like, you did so well. And Joe stood there on stage. But they needed to roll him out Friday, Saturday, over the weekend. Instead, they hit him again. They went back to Camp David. So
they did the one rally in North Carolina, but even then, it wasn't enough.
It's way too late. It's way too late. This narrative is now set in stone, and they're not going to change the media narrative just because they want to. They're going to try their best. They're going to find something to indict Trump on. They're hoping this hurricane in the Pacific and the Atlantic hits Texas directly, and it becomes a story. They need something to change their narrative, but they are incapable right now.
They're grasping at straws. Yeah. What do you think of this idea, though, that it's Biden saying, oh, I think I might need to drop out?
No way in hell.
I don't think it's Biden at all. I think Biden and also the Biden family are all, they are prepared to run until they absolutely cannot, and they don't think it's off the table. It's interesting because, again, going back to this interview I was listening to with Jim Zogby, he was saying, Biden could pass the baton and he could go out with this dignified, like, ultimate, I'm hearing a couple different Democrats say this thing of like in service to the nation, putting aside his ambition and letting someone else like step in or whatever. And I just don't think that they have understood the characters involved in this. It doesn't seem like Biden.
And if you look at electoral politics, elected officials, right and left, but particularly on the left, they don't give up power easily. Look at someone like Ted Kennedy. Look at Robert Byrd, right? Look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Look at Dianne Feinstein. Just a couple months ago, her staff was voting on her behalf. If you are in this position for 30, 40, 50 years, you don't give it up because it's not part of your DNA. Secondly, Joe Biden's entire personality is created on the fact that he's wanted to be president. All the lies that we make fun of him on, like I got arrested for protesting Nelson Mandela's occupation, right? I brokered peace agreements with Golda Meir back in all these things that people are like, what the hell? How could you lie like that? This is all to create this image that I am presidential. Even at 27 years old, I was brokering peace accords with Golda Meir. That's how great I am. He has wanted to be president for forever, as most senators do. He's always wanted to be president. He finally got it. He may not be lucid, and he does not know what's happening in the country, but he does know he is president, and that is all he has wanted. So there is no way in hell Joe Biden is going to step down. They can 25th Amendment out, right? The way they got rid of Nixon is they said, we're going to impeach you if you don't step aside, right? They can threaten him in that way, but he will not voluntarily step aside. It's incapable of Joe Biden because this is the only thing he has wanted his whole life. He will never step aside.
Yeah, I think his ego's too intertwined with this. And when we get reports like this, I almost think it's people on staff who are saying we've been trying to tell him that he must step aside, but it's not going well or whatever. I mean, it just does not seem like a path that Joe Biden will voluntarily pick, and I don't think he cares about what is good for the party or what's good down ticket. He only cares about getting as much time in the White House as humanly possible.
But you're mentioning Nixon. Is the deep state going to let him just sit there and occupy the space they're trying to take?
Well, as they did with Nixon, they will go to him and say, Mr. President, if you don't resign, we're going to have to do something like the 25th Amendment, right? If you don't resign, we are going to take the necessary steps that will put you in such an awkward position. So this is the best way to do it. So they may force him to resign, but voluntarily, the sense of magnanimity or love of the country that he realizes, my diminished capacity is great.
That's why I do
he's not
think
capable of doing it.
That's why I do think he's going to step down. I mean, you look at what Tucker Carlson's saying. There's too many big donors. I think Reed Hastings recently was like, get out.
Yeah.
And so the people who are funding the party are saying no more. And Biden's saying, yes, I won't. I'm staying.
I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
He's president.
I kind of wonder if we're going to get that Gavin Newsom moment where he grasps his heart.
I think it's going to be Obama that runs out there and saves him. Barack. You've been.
I feel like Obama's like, well, he had a good run. We'll just
Why
see what
Barack?
happens.
Just so his wife can become president.
Well, then Michelle would do it.
Well, it'll be Barack because he's the male hero archetype everyone loves, and then he'll bring the Obama name back into the spotlight, and then Michelle will step out.
Now, what's going to happen
can't
is
run again.
Joe's going to grasp his chest and go on stage and fall over, and Michelle's going to run out, rip off her high heels, full sprint, and lift him up with one arm and carry him to safety.
And feminist crowds everywhere go wild.
Exactly. Power.
I kind of agree with you guys, both of you actually. I don't think he'll step aside. I think he'll be pushed aside. And it's a little bit semantic at that point, but I think he's going to be incited to get out of the way by probably this.
I got an idea. Democrats, hear me out. Maybe we accuse Joe Biden of working for Vladimir Putin. That's potentially a way to get rid of him, and then you can impeach him over what he did in Ukraine.
I mean, how about the LNG pause that has made Vladimir Putin incredibly rich, and he used all that money to start a war, to fund his army and make further incursions into Ukraine.
LNG, liquid natural gas?
Liquid natural gas, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that Biden has done that has made Putin rich and that has made Iran rich, and both of those countries, when they have a lot of money, now we're in the energy space, what do when they have a lot of money? They build schools for girls.
Look.
Right? No, they don't. They go to war. They build armies.
I just gotta say, we must protect Biden with every ounce of strength we have. He is sharp as he's ever been. He is witty. He is there, and he won the primary. Democrats, they're conspiracy theorists with those cheap fakes. I watched the debate, and I saw a man who was with it.
And he's our commander-in-chief.
That's true. So
we got to stand by him.
I say Biden for the Democratic Party.
Amen.
Yeah, we saw a very authentic Biden at the debate, and I think we should value that as a country. I'm with Corinne Jean-Pierre on this one. I mean, how dare anyone imply that he should step aside, that they wouldn't be in
years.
service?
Exactly.
I know there's a lot of fog of war over in the Ukraine eastern border there, but have the Russians captured any of the equipment we've sent over there? because that's traitorous. If Biden sent artillery over there, now Putin has it. I mean, that's just another feather in his cap.
I mean, I wonder if you could track some of the equipment that left in Afghanistan that has made its way up, and is being used. I don't know. But going on what you said, Anna Claire, now we need those platitudes that politicians always use, like, look, this isn't the time for partisan politics. We need to come together as a country. We need to stand with our commander-in-chief, and we do. We need to rally around Joe Biden and say, this is our president, right? He's my president too, and we need to support him to carry out his constitutional duty and run for re-election. He presented himself in dozens of primaries as the candidate for 2024. If the party that tells us that Trump is a threat to democracy cannot respect the democracy of their own constituents in those primaries, they didn't vote for Gavin Newsom. They wouldn't even let Bobby Kennedy Jr. on the ticket. Right, they made him change parties. So
and they're still trying to get him off the ticket.
Yeah,
and this I think makes the most sense. One of our callers last night mentioned this. Everything lines up. Why didn't they poll Biden months ago? Because RFK would have taken the Democratic nomination, and they would have had a Bernie Sanders situation.
Yeah.
So they needed to shut down the primaries first, then do an open convention and swap out Joe Biden. Otherwise, RFK takes it.
And this was what Dean Phillips, who was running as a Democrat against Biden in the primary, this was one of his talking points, was he's gone a little too far left, a little too aggressively without the consent and the input of the American people. And he's too old for the job, and we need young blood. And Dean Phillips, so much so that he basically had to give up his congressional seat. He's not running for re-election. He's independently wealthy, so I don't think he's worried about his future. But Dean Phillips stood up and was like, this is why I'm running for president. I knew these things. Where's Dean Phillips, right? How come no one on MSNBC has had Dean Phillips on their program? How come CNN hasn't said, you know what, Dean Phillips, 6 months ago, we dismissed you as a threat to the party. You were right. We were wrong. How come none of them have to eat crow right now?
We should have him on here. This is a good time to get a Democratic senator or a
I'd love to have Dean Phillips on because, again, he announced his campaign and then stood by it. He was like, I am running as a Democrat, even when RFK shifted parties. Now, arguably, RFK has now shifted to his tone. He's saying, oh, I'm running to unite everybody or whatever. But with Dean Phillips, I think you're absolutely right. Where is he? Why is nobody talking to him? And I think in part it's because no one wants to look at Dean Phillips and say, you actually had really good points and we just made fun of you until you basically had to leave, and now we've really created an issue. I mean, even when they talk about potential names, that his name doesn't get thrown around, even though he was willing to say something.
Was willing to throw his hat in the ring.
And to be fair, part of it is people launch presidential campaigns to raise their profile, you know? But Kamala Harris is deeply unpopular. So yes, she is becoming this front and center name, and people are starting to say, "Oh, well, yes, I would support her." The Democratic senator from South Carolina said that, but it's not their first choice, right? If Joe Biden had said, "I'm not going to run again," and she had announced she was running, I don't actually think she would necessarily win the Democratic primary on her own.
No.
And that's not good for the voter base.
She didn't in 2019 when she was running pre-COVID, when everyone was running for the presidency, for the Democrat ticket. She didn't even win California. She dropped out before the California primary because she was going to get crushed in her own state. One last comment on Dean Phillips. And again, we would probably disagree on everything in terms of policy and politics. He is still very much a committed Democrat and probably a fairly left Democrat. But one of the things I did like about him, which I thought showed character, was he said once at a rally, I went to a Trump rally on my own and I just walked around the crowd. He's like, they're really nice people. Like, we have to stop demonizing them as this awful group of, like, they're really great. They love the country. They were diverse. They were friendly. And I thought, boy, oh boy, Dean Phillips, I disagree with you on a lot of stuff, but the fact that you were willing to say that, because look at the way Kamala will talk about the MAGA extremists who have hijacked the court, right? So I like Dean Phillips for that reason.
Let's jump to this story. We have this tweet from Tom Fitton, and this is big. And I want to preface this with, I'm going to need more confirmation than that, Tom, but Tom was willing to actually tweet this out based on what's going on in D.C. Tom, of course, is from Judicial Watch. We're big fans. President of Judicial Watch. Fact checker expert. Look at that. And he says, I'm hearing Biden is going to resign next week. To be clear, I'm hearing Joe Biden is going to resign from the presidency. I can't believe it. Now, I'm not going to say outright it's going to happen. I say that's interesting. And that tweet alone says, I'll keep my eye on things and I will be ready if this is to be the case. But considering the top level Democrats who have come out, the obstacle of swapping out Joe Biden with Kamala Harris next in line, we've long speculated on this show the only move is for Joe Biden to be removed from the presidency in some fashion so Kamala can become temporary president or whatever you call it. And someone had a correction for me. It would not be acting president. It would be president.
Yeah.
Acting president is when the president is incapacitated. So Kamala becomes president, then says something like, I would be unable to launch a campaign. I'm going to do my duty. And this opens up the door to get Kamala out of the way, have an open convention, but it's going to have to happen before the convention. So it actually does make sense. Not that I think it's a great probability. It sounds a little bit wild, but it makes a lot of sense that Joe Biden would resign from the presidency or be removed within the next couple of weeks at least.
So what are the immediate things they have to do is they have to choose a vice president, and that requires now the consent of the Senate. So A, who does Kamala pick as vice president? Secondly, there are seven or eight senators who are up for re-election as Democrats who are in very close races. And now if you're John Tester in Montana and they're like, oh, I need you to vote on Michelle Obama as vice president, you think, do I want to get reelected in Montana? Do I want so what do you do when you're in that state? If you're Tim Kaine in Virginia, if you're Bob Casey in Pennsylvania, right? Do I vote for this new vice president who is an absolute disaster that is going to get me crushed with my constituency? Or do I give up my election choices so that Kamala Harris can have her VP? That's a huge problem.
I mean, it's 4 months. They might just pick some low-level nobody.
I don't know. I mean, they could.
They could.
What I find really interesting, and I wish Tom Fitton would tell us, I think so highly of him, is why the immediacy, right? I mean, he could suddenly announce he's dropping out of the race and open the door for, whatever they're going to do at the convention to get Kamala or whoever, I've heard Josh Shapiro's name thrown around too, as the nominee. Why would he need to vacate the presidency right now? And to me, that signals that potentially this whole thing of like, no, he doesn't have a degenerative illness, his health isn't in decline, is actually becoming too unmanageable to cover up anymore. Because why? Right. What is the point? I mean, other than you're saying potentially boosting Kamala Harris as vice president, okay, maybe.
Move her out of the way.
Maybe, but then also like, actually it would be more chaotic and harder for them, and Kamala's the only one who can get the money from the DNC at this point for campaigning. Like there are other issues at play. To me, the immediacy of like he is about to leave the presidency is actually, we're going to have to admit that something is terribly wrong.
Remember the reporting around the debate where the press was upset, the White House press corps was upset they weren't allowed in the building because they were concerned a medical emergency may ensue and they wouldn't be there to cover it. And we're all like, And to be fair, I mean, you got two very old men on stage. Now, also to be fair, Trump is spry. Yeah. I mean, when Joe Biden sputtered out of control and then CNN tried to cover for him when he was like, we beat Medicare. And then they're like, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And then Trump's like, yeah, you beat Medicare, you beat it to death.
Beat it to death. His voice got real low when he said it, too. Like, it was the lowest it got the whole thing. That's a mini version of that because you'd be in jail. Like, that is the quick wit of Trump. It wasn't. He wasn't even trying to be funny at all. He just, that's normal.
He was with the American people being like, what did you just say?
Well, but back to Biden. They dragged this out as long as they could, I think, to keep RFK out. And so perhaps now the immediacy of resigning right away is because he's held on as long as he can. Yeah. And he's sitting there. Remember that? You see that video where it looks like he's crying on stage? Jill Biden's talking and he's just got like this scrunched face like he just can't take it anymore. I mean, this dude's ready to just lay down and put on, I don't know, the Jeffersons and just, enjoy himself.
Go for little walks in the parks in Delaware. And all of this, the great joy that all of this brings me is knowing that this is all because of their own doing, right? They chose the debate time. Trump agreed. They chose the moderator, the location. They chose the format. Trump agreed. And I remember thinking Trump made a huge mistake. I was like, I wouldn't give in to every one of Biden's demands. Absolutely. Right. You pushed RFK off the primary. You changed the primary schedule. New Hampshire's been first in primaries forever. They switched it with South Carolina to help Joe Biden. Every single thing that they have done as a Democrat Party was to protect Joe Biden. And now you have the gall to come to us and be like, hey, we may have a problem. Screw you guys. Like, I am glad to see you all implode. And I think if Tom Fitton is correct, if he does resign next week, I think we need some very large impeachment hearings because the vice president must be sitting with him. How many months? What did the president know and when did you know it, Madam President? How long have you known that Joe Biden was incapacitated? And he's making decisions about Ukraine. He's making decisions about troop movements. This is months, years. The chief of staff, a lot of people have to be brought up on trial because, damn, if you can be brought up on trial for giving a speech at the Washington Monument on January 6th, then you sure as hell can be brought up on trial for covering up for an incapacitated president. Someone's calling the shots. If Biden is only president from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., that means at 4:30, someone else is making a decision. Who the hell is that person? And are they accountable to the American people? So, if Joe Biden resigns, they are going to create more problems because now I feel like they are opening up an enormous can of worms.
Yeah, man. If there's a call to the president at like 4 in the morning or 1 in the morning, who deals with that? Because I can't imagine that old guy giving a cogent response over the phone. You think like
Well,
his
Hunter's
son
been
or
going
his
to meetings
wife?
with him, right?
I know.
So,
Like, sir, we need to do this, and he's just like, all right.
Hunter's so wired up on blow. He's like, I got the call. I got the call.
Whoa. Crack, not blood.
Is it his top like military advisors that are like, we're going to do this, President, and he's like, okay, and he doesn't have any
Jill.
critical thought. Jill is like, Joe, we're gonna.
I think
does Jill take the call, and then
yeah, Jill takes over. Jill gets all of his emails. All decisions go through Jill. And like she only tells him sometimes he's the face of the business, but she's actually running.
And
it.
when she said, "Joe, you did so good. You answered every
hypothetically.
question.
Did you see the
knew
Babylon
every
Bee?
fact?"
Did you see the Babylon Bee tweet? It had Jill sitting in front of the Resolute desk, and Joe was in the corner with like a little play school desk, and it's like the White House installs new play school toddler desk so that Joe can feel important
That's
while
what it
Jill
felt like
is
when
working.
she was telling him
Jill
how good
is,
he did. It felt like talking to a
It was
6-year-old.
vicious.
Jill is worm tongue.
Oh yeah, whispering.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
it. Tim's got the electrified.
of them,
being
man.
terrorized by a fly.
Dude, they're everywhere.
I don't know where
Yeah,
they're coming from. They're making more of themselves.
those animals, they tend to do
Yeah,
that.
but anyway, Jill is worm tongue. She's like, Biden is sickly and falling in his chair, and he's like, "Grr."
We need
And then
Gandalf.
she's whispering in his ear.
Where's Gandalf? Is that Bob Kennedy? Bobby Kennedy Jr. I think they
Not the
made
UFO.
they made such a mistake kicking Kennedy out of the Democratic process, the Democratic Party's process. Nice work, dude.
They were threatened by him, though. I mean, that's the thing. And I have so much respect for Kennedy for coming on when we were at the Libertarian Convention and answering a lot of questions from us. I don't think I would agree with him on basically most things, but he is interesting. He has an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
He was also articulate, and he could sit for an interview like that. And there's no way Biden could do this. I mean, I wonder what kind of conversation, what prep they're giving to George Stephanopoulos right now, or last week when they taped this interview or whatever. Like, it has to be during a certain time, and also you can't talk about certain things, and also don't speak too quickly. And if he gets lost, just play it off. Like, it seems like this is obvious that Biden needs so much care and structure around him that it's not the same kind of presidency as someone who is, strong and willing to go through periods of intense stress, like 4 years in the presidency. Because there's no doubt that it's hard to be the president of the United States. Like you're mentioning, you might get a call at 4 a.m. You've got to go this place. But the fact that Joe Biden was like, I almost fell asleep on stage because I was traveling so much. Okay, but you've got 4 more years of this, my dude. Like, what are we gonna do? If you can't even stay awake right now.
Those are all really great points. Can Trump be Aragorn?
And you're still stuck on this
Return of
meme. Trump is Gandalf.
I'm just here to fill in the time while we
Gandalf.
think
Trump,
about
because
that.
he comes in and he ousts them from
no,
power.
thou shalt not pass, and then he sticks the scepter in the ground
Exactly.
in the wall.
Somebody carved that in the border wall.
and he died and came back as stronger than before.
He is
That's a
more
good
of a
point,
white
right?
wizard than he
Thou
used to
shalt
be.
not pass.
Exactly.
You gotta go back.
No, I mean, if you're
I just like Lord of the Rings.
if you're the Biden administration right now, like what do you do? How do you save the situation? Because I think you're right. They're looking at this hurricane coming in and going like, please distract everyone.
Big hit. And also, if you are George Stephanopoulos and his team, what is that saying about your credibility that they went to you, right? You have to resuscitate the Democrat president, and we know you're going to be a team player. They didn't go to a serious interviewer. They went to the old, faithful little old George, and he will do his dutiful part and make the president look good. And they'll edit in such a way because that's what George Stephanopoulos has always done. Obama went to him back in the day when he was losing in the debates against Mitt Romney. Right? They always go to George when they need someone to bail them out because George is a Democrat operative. And of course he is. He was Clinton's spokesperson.
Yeah. I mean, they're
not
looking for favors
surprised.
at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
And I
Exactly.
think that's interesting, too, because we have this, the governors were meeting with Biden today, and they had this meeting, and they all came out being like, we have his back, and no problem, and he's always helped us. Like, that was Kathy Hochul. He's always helped us, so we're going to help him, and Wes Moore saying something similar. I mean, it's it's immediately fall back in line. But I think, again, George Stephanopoulos is probably not making deals with Biden himself. He's making deals with someone in the administration. What can I get out of this? And I think all the governors are saying, like, well, we're behind the Biden administration. I don't think they actually believe in Biden. They believe they can get something if they stay in line with the Democratic Party.
I've got this feeling that they could just run Kennedy as their candidate now.
No, he's anti-establishment.
Is that why they won't do it? Is because they're afraid he's going to rip up
the
their...
pharmaceutical interests will not allow RFK Jr. anywhere near the seat of power.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, when you listen to RFK Jr., and he talks about the sort of, I don't know, boilerplate politics stuff, you're kind of like, yeah, we get it. And then when he gets into environmental toxins, he's the whiz kid. He's right about all of it. He understands all of it. He's talking about plastics, polyphenols, BCAAs or whatever, just all this stuff. And we're like, we talk about all that stuff too. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, there's big industry. They're going to be like, you will be very disruptive to the, I don't know, forced medications and things that we want to have the American people do. So that's just never going to happen. I believe this whole plan, like, I think they would have swapped out Biden back in March because that was the rumor. But RFK Jr. was intent on running, and they were like, crap, if we do this, he runs, he wins.
You think they'd rather have Trump than RFK because of the big business interests? They're like, at least Trump's down with the vaccines and or whatever.
They being the deep
Democrats?
state or Democrats? Who's they?
Yeah, it's tough to say who is they, but the people that are running the Democrat.
Simple answer, yes. RFK is way too anti-establishment. Trump, at the very least, is willing to cut deals and bring on people like, John Bolton. So I firmly believe a Trump presidency, he's going to hire a bunch of dumb people. Like the idea that he won't. And a lot of people are concerned about it. That's why it's important we keep the pressure up and make sure he brings in good people. Vivek would be fantastic. Any kind of advice from Vivek is going to be absolutely fantastic. That dude knows his stuff. But Trump is probably going to hire a handful of people we're upset about. We're going to get, in my opinion, a marginally good second term from Trump. The economy will improve. Border security will improve. Immigration will improve. Trump will not be the dictator of leftist delusion that the right hopes for and the left fears. It's just not going to happen. He's going to be slightly net positive across the board. But you look at Trump's first term, and the things that we can say are good. Foreign policy was, I give it a C-. It's like a lot, but that's really good. It's a passing grade. I've not seen any other president get anywhere near close to a passing grade. But it's like not all good. It's commando raids. There's drone strikes. There's missile strikes. They're bad things. But I thought it was a net positive. And so we're going to complain about a lot of the stuff, and we should. And we're going to like a lot of the stuff. And I think we'll get a generally slight net positive for the first time or second time in my life, because his first term was the first time. And then Democrats are going to scream and act like it's the apocalypse when it's not.
Some of them, yeah. And then I can see like a conciliatory media move with Trump too, with like Anderson Cooper being like, we talked a lot of crap about you, like having him on the show and be like, but you did do a lot of good. And then like actually pointing. So I could see it if they,
you have
they get to the point where they're like, this is the least worst option.
This is the least worst option.
All right, guys, let's do this. I want to ask you guys a quick question.
Oh, boy.
Before anyone answers, I pose this to those that are listening to comment below. Who do you think the current Democrat frontrunner is? And I'll give you 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and it's Kamala Harris. The frontrunner for the Democratic nomination on Predict It is Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden, the sitting president. But it makes sense. Joe Biden has called her the president, I think 5 times.
He has.
He's repeatedly called her the president. And maybe it's because that's what they're planning for. But right now, the prediction markets believe Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee.
And they always called it the Biden-Harris administration from day one. They made a very salient point about that. It was never the Obama-Biden administration. It was never the Trump...
Yeah, exactly. Who was George Bush's VP? I don't know. It was Cheney.
I thought you were doing a bit.
No.
We totally forgot. Trump Pence, but it was always Biden-Harris. They made a very deliberate effort to say Biden-Harris administration for that reason.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they tried to always keep her as much. It was weird. They tried to keep her in the spotlight and also off to the side. She's the one out on the campaign trail, but not the campaign trail on this national abortion tour. They were sort of like, yeah, we'll make it up as we go along. Yeah, go to a clinic. We'll see what happens.
Can we start referring to Gavin Newsom as Count Chocula? Because that was one of our viewers who super chatted that, and he really does remind me of Count Chocula.
Yeah.
Or is it?
He needs to get a tan though.
Is it just because he reminds people of a vampire?
He is vampire-esque. He's got super big white teeth.
He's gonna get like the 23-year-old female vote over that.
Yeah.
He looked thinner and more
vampires.
gaunt than before at this last at the debate. Did you guys notice that at all compared to like 3 or 4 years ago?
Biden?
No, Newsom. He's kind of thin and a little more gaunt. Like kind of more skeletal than he was before.
Is he transferring his
ruining
life
a
force into
state is-
Biden to keep him going?
Ruining a state burns a lot of calories, so he's got, he's probably losing a lot of weight. I mean, I think part of this is Kamala Harris is, yes, maybe the front runner, or she's the name that has emerged. But it's like when you don't go grocery shopping and you have to just kind of make a meal out of what is left over. I mean, she's not the person you're racing out the door to vote for. And that's bad for the base. I also think that there is no way Kamala Harris handles the Israel-Palestine thing better than Biden. And this is another internal division in the Democratic Party where she's just not going to be able to capture the vote that they need. So I think, yes, maybe she is emerging as like the alternative, but it's not because she has earned it on her own merit. It's not because people feel inspired by her. It's because she's there when apparently everything else is falling apart.
I was looking for a good metaphor. I like the leftover groceries metaphor. That's all you got in the house. Got to boil some carrots.
You just have to deal with it at that point.
That was my question. It's the Biden-Harris campaign. So everything Biden did with Israel, with the economy, how does that not reflect poorly on Kamala? So
it does.
I mean, maybe they don't care about that. Maybe it's just anybody but Joe right now. But if you're the Gen Z Democrats right now, I don't know. I mean, they're not irrational people, but how do you rationally vote for Kamala? She was right there, a part of it all.
And the reason why Biden was brought on to the Obama administration, the Biden ticket back in 2008, was that there was a hesitancy of the party establishment that there are still a lot of old white guys who are Democrats who don't want to elect a black president. But they like Joe Biden and they know him. And so you know what? Maybe that will assuage any
Didn't
race
they already
concerns.
elect a black president?
This is
This was to make Biden
Oh, okay.
to make
I thought you meant last cycle.
Obama to make Obama back in 2008 to make Obama more palatable. They're going to have the same problem with Kamala Harris. They're going to say there's a lot of old white Democrats who don't want to elect a black woman who is obsessed talking about race and gender.
Michelle Obama too.
Same problem.
So a lot of people have this idea like, oh, Michelle Obama, she'll win easily, and I'm like, nah. I think she'll be a better contender than Biden. She'd probably poll slightly higher and has a good chance of beating Trump. But Democrats are racist, and I'm not saying it to be cute. That Yale study about how white people talk down to black people, there's going to be a lot of white older Democrats who are going to be like, well, I mean, I'm all for diversity, but and they'll make an excuse for it.
Well, Biden himself, right? I mean, I believe in my heart that black kids are just as smart as what was the line he said?
He said
poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
What he said, black kids are just as smart as no. He said poor kids. What does he say? What's the quote? Let's pull the quote
Something
up.
about getting on the internet too.
Rich kids are just as smart as black kids or something
Poor
like that.
Poor kids are just as bright as white kids.
Yeah, there you go. So they have, you're right, they do have an entrenched racism in their party. And they're going to have a huge problem with Kamala Harris, who is obsessed with race and gender issues. That's all she talks about.
Here's the fascinating thing. Republicans don't get this because they're overwhelmingly not racist. So when they hear Michelle Obama, they go, uh-oh, she's charismatic and she can give Trump a run for his money. I'm like, guys, calm down. Democrats are racist. They're like, they don't see the world the way you do. Republicans are looking at Michelle Obama as a charismatic celebrity personality who can win. Yeah. But I assure you, a bunch of these young Berkeley Democrats are going to be like, oh, that's so nice, but she won't know where the DMV is.
Yeah, exactly. And again, go back to Kamala Harris running for the primary in 2019 before COVID changed the world, right? When it was summer of 2019. She was at the Iowa State Fair, and then she would be asked, are we going to have to regulate cheeseburgers because of climate change? And she'd laugh. And she'd say, we should have a conversation on that, right? Whenever Kamala Harris doesn't want to answer a question, she says, we should have a conversation on that. Her polling numbers were so bad that she had to drop out before the California primary because she was going to get destroyed. She had literally no delegates after months of campaigning. Why do they think that she suddenly has national appeal? Yes, she is the sitting vice president. I'll acknowledge it. But this idea that suddenly if she becomes the top of the ticket, Democrats are going to rally around Kamala Harris. They didn't rally around her last time. Eric Yang and Pete Buttigieg did better than Kamala Harris, right? Yeah. So, I mean, if they really want to save the ticket.
Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, is that who you meant?
Who's Eric Yang?
I don't know. I know
Andrew Yang.
Andrew Yang.
Andrew Yang.
If they really want to save the ticket, I got to tell you, they should put Bernie Sanders there.
They should.
I think one of the issues is that if there's a power vacuum, yes, we on the outside all know Kamala Harris's name, and she seems hypothetically like the heir apparent because she's vice president. But internally, there has to be, like you're mentioning, Pete Buttigieg or any other top-ranking Democrat that's like, no, I should be president.
Yeah.
Any governor that has, enough delegates to really have influence at the DNC, which is not that far away, must be thinking to themselves, I have to say I'm with Biden, but if Biden's not there, I should get a shot at this.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be Kamala. I work hard and I deserve this, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, why would they go along with some sort of vague overarching plan from the DNC, so to speak, when really this is an opportunity for anyone to step in and say, I'm the leadership now?
The super delegates, because they have no chance in getting the nominee unless they're selected.
But there's only like 75 of them.
Super delegates?
Yeah.
It's a small group that's going to select the next candidate. So no matter how ambitious someone is, it's only Obama was like the last ambitious Democrat.
I agree with you. Maybe there are some super delegates that could influence it, but the governors themselves come with delegates. So if you're from a state that has a lot of delegates, I mean, you could theoretically have an influence enough to maybe sway a super delegate or enough of them to support you. I mean, that's the thing about having an open DNC right now, which is like you get to really expose the influence that the DNC have over its members. And I actually think it's not as strict and structured as we think it is. I think that there would be a lot more infighting, and in some ways, I think it would be a more interesting convention probably than even the RNC, because you would get to see all of these people vie for as much influence as they can rally in basically 6 weeks?
Yeah. It's just funny that the number one criteria in selecting your vice president is that this person should be able to fill in for me in case I can no longer do the job. The one criteria Kamala Harris has to meet, she has not met. Right? They selected her because of myriad reasons, but they did not select her because she could step in as president. And that's the problem they're having now. And how many news stories have there been about the enormous resignations at her staff?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. Have there been?
She can't keep staff to save her life because she's, rumor has it, a horrible person to be around and to work with. Her chiefs of staffs have resigned. Her comms teams have resigned. Who wants to, and you mentioned people like Pete Buttigieg or Gina Raimondo or all these cabinet secretaries. They're not going to take orders from Kamala Harris. They probably dislike her. So I just think it's funny in this world of diversity and equity and inclusion and all of that, the only criteria that mattered for VP is the one that she does not meet. She checks all the other boxes, right? But she is not capable of doing the job. Proof of that is the fact that they want to get rid of Biden and they don't know who to give the job to.
And that they made her the border czar. Like the second they made her the border czar, I was like, okay, so you hate this person.
Yeah.
You guys don't want her to thrive. And at the time, I thought of it as Biden viewing Harris as maybe a potential threat, right? They want her to have something very difficult should she, at the time he was sort of pretending like he was going to be a one-term president. And when they made her the border czar, I felt like it was giving her something difficult to have to explain when she inevitably runs for president, right? Because, the border is a very partisan issue, and she is bad at it, so she could never win. She could never win Republicans. And also, if you do anything to try to control illegal immigration, especially more extreme members of your own party will be like, "You're a terrible racist. How could you do this?"
And that's what Biden did also that's what Obama did to Biden. He didn't want to deal with Biden. It was like, go cure cancer, right? That was what I'm going to put Joe Biden in charge of solving the cancer problem. Because even Obama was like, I don't want to deal with this moron. So they gave Kamala a job like that. You go take care of the border. Let us do our job.
Right. You go take care of the border, which is impossible for you to do for a number of reasons. We're not going to give you any support. Also, if you make any restrictions, you'll isolate your own base. Also, if you don't deal with it, crime will get out of control and you're at the fault of, you are culpable for a lot of issues we have in America. Also, now leave again. Go talk about abortion.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Talk about anything. It's just
they have her around, but they don't want her there.
No, and she talks about anything, and she just is nails on the chalkboard.
I know.
She's so distracting, like Tim trying to kill flies.
Tim slaughtering it. He's chasing this one down right now. Oh, nice. Did you get it? He's about to get it, though.
This is the new Olympic sport.
You got to keep in mind, we're about to select our military commander. So, Kamala is obviously not the person for it. Who would be capable of commanding the military?
Oh, and it's gigantic too.
Are we being invaded?
Got it. You had. Oh, damn.
Maybe it's not.
That one didn't die either. That was creepy.
We're adding a new
stunned.
level to IRL. Like, not only do we have to respond to topical news things, but we also have to avoid getting hit by flies and/or an electrified fly swatter.
Maybe it's not organic. Maybe it's a little drone. You know,
We're literally being bugged.
like the people who don't believe in birds. Have you seen all that?
Capacitor.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did it
Oh, I
break?
don't care for that at all.
No, it's a taser.
the people who don't believe in
Tasing
birds.
flies up
We need
in
a
here.
passive
Happy
slaughter.
July
Here it is.
4th,
Here it is. Here it
everybody.
is. It's coming around. It's coming around.
He's a little slower than the other one.
I
That's because you've been swatting.
I hope everybody who's listening to this audio only is having the time of their lives right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel like
Man, the holidays here.
This is as chaotic as trying to find the new president of the United States.
Why, what
This
they're
is
doing.
exactly
this
what
is
it's
what
like.
the DNC meetings are like right now.
Biden's like up on a chair with a racket trying to hit.
As the governors,
He swings at a fly in a chair and falls down.
as the governors are all gathered in the Oval Office, and Joe is there with a tennis racket, chasing, running around the room. There's a fly in here. Yes, Mr. President. There is a fly in here.
Daniel, if you're running Joe Biden's campaign right now, how do you handle the next couple days? Because typically July 4th, it is with Independence Day, there's all kind of celebrations that the president has to attend, right? Do you keep him public or do you try and hide him?
No, I think you make him visibly public. You don't let him speak to people. I would do the big White House event tomorrow that they always have, the barbecue that is for friends and family and senators and their family. I would do that. I would do everything public possible with as little speaking as necessary. And I would start calling. If I'm the campaign manager, I am calling Democrat power brokers, and I tell them to get in line or prepare to deal with the consequences.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, I think I know what you mean. Get in line.
Get in line. This is the president, and if I hear another rumor that you are tipping off a newspaper or the 25 members of Congress who have hinted that they're going to write a letter, 2 already did, call for Biden to resign. Supposedly there are 25 more who are going to.
Oh, wow.
That's it. Your campaign is done, right? We're pulling all DCCC money from your campaign. Where that's how you start dealing with this.
I hope there's a wide shot of Tim right now. By the way,
I'm trying to get him
slaughtering
on
this
cam.
fly.
Stuck inside.
I thought he,
Didn't die.
There is the room cam.
He landed on the actual thing and bounced off. It kept going.
Does it not work?
It's an agile animal.
I gotta get him.
Yeah.
He's hard. It's hard to get him. I think I got him.
Nice.
Don't break the
Trapped
sign.
behind.
Yeah, he's hiding. He can run, but he can't hide forever.
I'd be able to.
Jeez. Oh, he's out. He's out. He's to your right. He's to the other curtain now.
Yeah.
Got him.
Oh, beautiful.
You have to come back like George.
That was Timcast.
Gained 10 experience for that, dude.
It was.
No, you're too high level to have gained any experience for that attack.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He looked huge. He looked like he was this
I
big.
tased him. Sparks were like shooting around his body like lightning.
His difficulty was only
So,
gray, though,
It's
dude.
4th
I
of
just
July.
told Joe
All right,
Biden's
it's
schedule
been
for
14 minutes.
Who's number 3?
hold Joe Biden's schedule for a minute. So he is doing the event tomorrow. He's going to have a barbecue with active duty military service members and their families, and then do whatever on the 4th of July. And then he's going to Wilmington, Delaware this weekend, which he spends most weekends in Delaware. But it is interesting because I feel like going back to his home, it's going to be this moment where either his family is like, you got to keep going, or if Tom Fitton is right and there is some sort of conversation, maybe it will happen there that he is like, we got to stop.
And the joys of going to your own home is that you don't have to keep visitors' logs. So who he meets with and the calls he has don't have to be logged. The bigger problem that if I am Biden's team right now is that he's supposed to go to NATO next week. And that's
He's so tired.
That's gonna be bad.
Where are they meeting?
Right? Where is the next NATO meeting? It's back in Europe, and I don't know if it's at the headquarters, but he's got to be back on stage with these world leaders, and they are watching the news.
Oh, no, it's in D.C.
Oh, it's here locally.
Yeah, July 9th to 11th. So that's good.
So at least he can sleep in his own bed. But still, he's got to be on stage with world leaders who are asking serious questions and having deep conversations, and he's got to try to stay awake.
Let's pull out this clip talking about serious conversations. This is great. You guys are going to love listening to this right now. I'm going to play it for you. Here you go. This is the press briefing.
He's absolutely running.
Yeah. Well, he's saying that, and I'm sharing with you his view.
And we would invite the president to come here and tell us that directly.
Noted, Kelly.
But he's awake. That's inappropriate.
As you heard from your colleague.
So she says, we'd invite him to come here. And another reporter goes, if he's awake. Yo, they have turned on the Biden administration.
And her. That
Yeah.
nasty girl,
See,
Pierre.
that
Maybe Jean Pierre's
reporter,
the worst press secretary I've ever seen.
She's just so mean.
I was gonna say that reporter was making me laugh because she is like, we would like to hear directly from Biden, and then she hears the if he's awake, there's a pause. She's like, that's inappropriate. See, Corinne, I'm on your side. Do me a favor. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of this right now.
Please, yeah.
Because even these mainstream outlets, like we're seeing a lot of reports from the New York Times that are saying like, these conversations going on with Biden and whatever. It will look really, really, really bad for any mainstream media outlet that wants to pretend like they have any semblance of credibility if they continue to be like, and everything is fine.
They have no semblance of credibility, though. That's it. I mean, I think of all we saw of Russiagate and the hoax that was, all we dealt with COVID and what happened there. This is like the third huge moment that the media is on trial, and at this point, the media has no credibility left because Carl Bernstein, right, from Carl Bernstein fame, saying that, I've known at least 15 or 20 episodes, the president. Well, how come there was no deep throat on that, Carl? How come there was no racing to full page articles of the Washington Post on that, Carl? Because they all felt the need to protect the president. Yeah. So they protect Fauci. So the media has the lowest favorability rating they've had in history. And at this point, the media should just be unplugged. They are genuinely the enemy of the American people.
CNN, though, I've got a little bit of hope at CNN right now. The way they handled the debate was pretty unbiased, and the way they're letting Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper speak the truth about what they're perceiving with Biden is kind of impressive. And if they can keep this up, I would be very, very happy.
Do you think that that's them being unbiased, or do you think it's them realizing that they cannot continue to lie for this administration?
That's a great point, and I think it's more the latter.
It's tough to tell.
Because we all want to have a redemption arc for all kinds of institutions in America. We'd love for us to be a society that lives peacefully and trusts, that we're all working together for harmony. But ultimately, I think if the news media is turning on the Biden administration, it's because they do not believe that they can continue lying for them.
Maybe I think that they are on a crusade to improve their credibility because CNN's floundering and tanking. And I was Jeff Zucker.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, and he was like the guy
now?
that kind of made it entertainment. Like
I thought Chris Licht was gone and Zucker was in.
Zucker? No,
Zucker was before Licht,
and
now
Licht is gone too.
Right, Licht is gone. So it's like I don't even know who.
So they got some new person, and maybe they're like, you know what? We're making this legit. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of making this.
They got a clean house. If they clean house, I say okay. If you get rid of Caitlin Collins, Jake Tapper, and Dana Bash, and who else do they have left? Just get rid of them all. All gone.
Anderson Cooper. Is he
Anderson gone. You get rid of all those people, I'll watch CNN.
But to your point,
and apologize.
To your point, if this is the third time the media has been on trial, I feel like the first two, like with Russiagate and everything like that, that was actually conservatives starting to be like, oh, things are going on. This seems to be the first one that Democrats and independents are like, oh, wait, you told us everything was fine, and it seems as though it is not fine.
Yeah.
We don't know if we believe you anymore.
They didn't just say it was fine. 2 weeks ago, they were calling these deep fakes.
I mean, cheap fakes.
Cheap fakes. 2 weeks ago, they were saying a vast right-wing conspiracy, right-wing propaganda. 2 weeks ago, they were saying that. Now they're like, wow, yeah, we've known for quite some time.
Right.
How do you have any credibility?
Jean-Pierre yesterday said, well, I didn't say cheap fakes. The media came up with that. I just repeated what the media said. They were the ones quoting her saying that. I mean, it's so much deception that I think even the White House can't keep up with it at this point. And it's to the detriment of the American people. Like we were talking about before the show, it's all Biden. Biden is dominating the news cycle. Now, in part, everyone's taking off for vacation, including people in the media who'd be writing stories, but also there is stuff going on. It's just no one can take their eyes off this car crash right now. And in some ways that leaves a lot of the American people uninformed about what's going on in their communities. I mean, if it's Maryland school districts saying we don't want this AP African-American course or, which state, I can't even remember off the top of my head, introducing, was it Louisiana introducing you have to include biblical teachings in curriculum now?
Have the 10 Commandments in the classrooms, yeah.
There's been a couple different ones this week, and it's just like, but everything going on with Biden is such a main stage disaster. That stuff isn't getting attention. I mean, that's actually the news media failing the American people.
And this is not what our founders intended. Right. And that's the biggest problem, maybe the day before the 4th of July. They hated the idea of a big central government. They hated the idea of an all-powerful administrative state. I mean, we are United States. We are not a federal government of Washington, D.C. of America. And so the only way I think of ending this for good, and you mentioned Vivek before, and I hope he is actually chief of staff would be my ideal position for him because it is really an administrative one and it's a visionary one. And great chiefs of staff have done very impactful things for good or for ill. That would be my hope for Vivek. But he's the one who talks the most about this, is the dismantling of this. The reason why every election is the most important election of our time is because we have $6-7 trillion in spending that is all going to crap projects. That's all going to bribe governors right now. What do you think they talked about with the Democrat governors? Money. Everything is in D.C. All the money, all the power.
And those governors came out and said, we got Joe's back because he's got ours. And what they really meant was he promised them funding, so everything's fine.
And it's not at all what our founders intended when they had this vision of this country. They envisioned powerful. Your governor should be the most powerful person, if you want to look at it in that sense, because you have a lot more say in who your governor is than you do in who the president does. And your mayor should be the second most important one. And that's where all the power should be concentrated, because it's your community and your people and people who are your neighbors. Instead, everything is concentrated in. You can't even choose a damn textbook without Washington, D.C. But you can't build a bridge. We're stuck with the bridge in Baltimore because of D.C. How are we at the stage that the governor of Maryland is like, I can't build the bridge until D.C. makes it this? Build your own damn bridge, right? Yeah. Everything is in D.C. Everything is in D.C. And boy, our founders have to be very disappointed that that's what we've become, because now Joe Biden is a little George III. Right? He has decided you shall not sell liquid natural gas anymore. I have deemed it so. This whole argument of him being apoplectic about the Supreme Court ruling on immunity, I don't believe a president is all powerful. BS, you don't. You have passed some rules or enacted legislation. I don't think you should be able to sell this anymore. I want to shut down those coal mines. Who the hell are you to shut down a coal mine? I'm the president. Oh, our founders would be rolling in their graves if they saw how powerful the federal government has become.
Failing. The Baltimore
got to
Bridge
be destroyed.
The Baltimore Bridge collapse is a perfect spectacle for Biden to be like, look, build back better. Here's how we're going to get it done. That's not happening.
No.
The states aren't doing it. Biden's not doing it. It's a failure on all fronts. They still don't know how that even happened, how the cargo ship just ran into one of the support piers. You know, it's tragic. And if you ask anyone from Maryland, I grew up around here, they can tell you how just impactful that's been for traffic.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere anymore without sitting in traffic now in Baltimore, and that's one of the biggest ports in this country. It's a tragedy, and it's crazy because it was like a gift. Here, show us your vision. You know, he wanted to be FDR. We'll do it now.
Yeah, and it probably will take 10 years if they're lucky to build the bridge back. Right,
that's never coming back.
If they even build it back.
The incompetence and the managerial degradation that we're seeing in this country. Yeah, it's not coming back. I mean, like 30 years. If Trump comes in and gives us marginal victories, then we're on the path towards restoration in that regard. But I don't see that thing coming back anytime soon.
No, and that's a great example of just the crumbling overall nature of the country. And it's all because everything is concentrated in this one city, and we have to get 55 senators to vote on a bridge in Maryland. Holy crap, what the hell do I, if I'm the senator of, maybe if I'm Virginia, right? Or maybe if I'm a local state, but if I'm the senator of Wyoming and you're like, wait, I have to go to the floor to vote on funding for a bridge in Maryland? I care about Wyoming. I tweet all the time at Senator Kane, who's up for re-election in my great state of Virginia. When do you ever talk about Virginia? You talk about Ukraine, and you talk about Israel, and you talk about, you're a senator of the world. Just talk about Virginia just once.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you should go to D.C. with this vision, why does this help the people of Virginia? And if you can't make me the case why it helps the people of Virginia, then what the hell am I doing here? We're going to have a hearing on whether or not apples in Wisconsin can be imported to South Korea. What the hell am I at this hearing for? But this is all the stuff they occupy themselves on all day. The whole trans movement. We have to have a hearing on girls and sports. Very important issue. Why is this
handled at the state level?
Why is it
right?
in DC? Everything is DC. Mm-hmm. Everything is in DC.
I mean, in part, it's because federal money runs throughout so much, right? Anything that accepts federal money is beholden to Washington, D.C., and unfortunately, a ton of our institutions ultimately accept federal money. You know, I don't think people realize how far-reaching that is, and that's almost to the detriment of the American people, because anytime the federal government doesn't give money without strings, and we're ultimately all giving up some kind of autonomy when you accept that the federal government is going to come in and tell you what to do. But I think you're right, especially with the trans sports issue. there was a huge movement with the Safe Women's Sports Act, rolled out slightly differently, but independently states were saying this is how we want to handle that. And I think that is much more in line with what the founding fathers wanted for our country. I think that is not what especially the modern day DNC wants for the American people. They want to be able to say, you go to this one place, we decide, and everyone has to fall in line, and that's it.
Yeah.
And to that end, I think the American people are sort of disillusioned with that, right? I don't think they look at the federal government as serving their needs. It's like, how do I avoid being in the crosshairs of what the government is trying to force us to do? How do I stay away from it as much as possible?
Let's jump to this story. We got the Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, filing a lawsuit against New York for hijacking the presidential election by illegally scheming to jail their presidential opponent, President Trump. New York is waging a war on American democracy, and Missouri will not let it stand. Bravo, good sir, he says. New York's illicit prosecution, gag order, and sentencing of President Trump has undermined his ability to campaign. This overt meddling in a presidential election sabotages Missourians' ability to cast a well-informed vote mere months before the election. I am asking the Supreme Court to declare that New York's actions unlawfully interfere with the presidential election, to remove any gag orders against President Trump, and to halt the impeding sentencing until after the presidential election. Well, that has been halted. Until September, at least. The Supreme Court must invoke its original jurisdiction under Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution to settle the score once and for all. Right now, Missouri has a huge problem with New York. I will not sit idly by while Soros-backed prosecutors in New York hold Missouri voters hostage in this presidential election. Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo, Andrew. This dude's been leading the charge. He is one of the best, because we complain all the time about red states not doing anything, and this guy has been doing a lot. So bravo, sir.
That's awesome. Yeah. Finally, we need more pushback like this, and more. Hopefully, more attorneys general sign on board. I'd be curious to see which ones do, because this is essential, right? This is New York interfering with the federal election.
They say the lawsuit comes just 1 month after New York obtained an illicit conviction against President Trump and alleges 3 specific violations. Count 1, interference with the presidential election in other states. Count 2, violation of Purcell, a federal case prohibiting courts from sowing voter confusion or changing election rules in the months leading up to an election. And count 3, violation of the First Amendment rights of voters in other states. He asserts in the lawsuit, this lawfare is poisonous to American democracy. The American people ought to be able to participate in a presidential election free from New York's interference. Any gag order and sentence should be stayed until after the election. Bravo.
Yeah.
I really do think New York, or I don't want to blame all of New York, but I do want to say I do think the Attorney General's office and definitely the Manhattan District Attorney's office thinks they are in charge of the country right now. I mean, even the language. Do you remember when we had all of these secretaries of states, Maine's in particular stood out to me, when they were saying, like, we're not going to let Trump on the ballot. We had all of those lawsuits over that. And they were like, for the good of the nation, I am making this decision. I think it is such a strange time where these states have decided they are going to be the parents and they have the right to dominate this conversation and restrict the rights of other voters.
Yeah. Well, again, all this chaos that we're seeing, they created, they orchestrated it. This is all happening according to their master plan. All these lawsuits that Trump is involved in, they wanted them all to happen during this period, right? 2024. They wanted it to happen before the convention to hopefully have him already sentenced. So they wanted to be able to say convicted felon before the first debate. They got that. So all of the chaos that we're seeing right now, they created. Campaign folks in a room like this all gathered around the table. This is an orchestrated effort. You got it. Congrats. But now you're also eating the consequence of your pernicious actions. And all of the country is suffering as a result. That's why, we're going back to the whole, if Biden resigns and Kamala steps in, I think that's opening a larger can of worms that they are not ready to deal with.
Do you think other states will sign on? I mean, and which ones? I guess is the question.
So
this is Missouri.
Missouri.
Oh, this one's going to get big.
Yeah.
Because we like Texas v. Pennsylvania. It was all the red states versus the blue states, basically. Mm-hmm. So this one maybe the Supreme Court has to intervene. There's no question. I mean, what New York did is absolute election interference. No question.
It's challenging because it's coming out right before a holiday. So I think probably there are a lot of attorney general's offices that are not staffed right now. I mean, I wonder how many people they're having to call in to say we want to sign on to this lawsuit or whatever else. I mean, I worry that because of the timing of this, and again, I think it was a good thing to do either way. You can't control the timing all the time, but we might lose momentum on this if going into a holiday weekend.
Well,
Real quick, we do have a chat from Scott Good who makes a good point. He says, the AG did nothing. He filed after SCOTUS took their summer break and will not be back till October to even consider it.
Yeah.
Fair point.
See, this is the thing. Like, the timing does matter. I mean, hypothetically, it could prevent something like this from happening again. But I don't think that, the Supreme Court's not going to make a decision in October about this case anyways. I don't think.
But the Supreme Court is vacant for months.
Yes.
Yeah,
They just disappear for months at a
So
time.
does Congress.
They all go
That's
on recess.
insane. I mean, they're not in high school. They're not in elementary
like,
school.
with
You don't get summer break, guys.
With Congress and stuff, they have to go back and be in their districts. Like, you can't have them in D.C. all the time. They have to spend the majority of their time in the
Courts.
state.
What are the Supreme Court? That's a 24/7 career. Like, you need to be there when we need you. What the hell's going on? They think that the
but
world's
all
going to
jobs
wait?
get vacation days.
Sure, like take 2 weeks maybe.
So theoretically,
and stagger it.
It makes sense. I mean, the other part is I think they do. I don't know, but theoretically they could be working. Like, they still read their cases. They still consider stuff even if they're not literally in D.C.
Yeah, and they still work during the summer because every justice is in charge of a jurisdiction, so things still have to come before them that they are allowed to decide.
Just means that they are literally.
But they're not
at court.
in session in the sense that, like, these are the cases we're going to hear this session. That doesn't start until September. I think the AG, and again, I'm not an attorney, so I could be mistaken. I think he deliberately waited for their docket to be cleared, which was July 1st, to file this, because now there is nothing before the court. So now here's the first thing that's brought with them.
Not
And they
because there
could
are-
respond to it if they choose to.
Yeah.
But they already have some cases sort of ready to go on to the, like, we kind of know what's coming next time, right?
Yeah. And their clerks are still working. I mean, they don't have.
But they could answer this if they want to.
Are they allowed to? Like, before October? Can they be like, all right, well, let's just do this now because it's more important than...
I would say I'm fairly certain the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes, but.
I don't know. It would be great to get like a former clerk in here who can give that answer, and I know a bunch if you want one. But I'm sure, however this works, the clerks now all talk to each other and say, all right, let Justice X know, and then they have a conference call or so. I don't know how they actually work the inner processes, but Supreme Court clerks are pretty close. They hold their cards close to the vest, but it would be great to have a conversation with one of them and see how the actual court does operate like this.
Mm-hmm.
How about Bailey just, bring criminal charges against Joe Biden or something?
It'd be interesting, right? I mean, part of it is like, what's the venue? Where do we go from here? And I think this is one of the more disheartening things. And I'm not trying to be negative right before Independence Day. But one of the challenges is, the district in which you file, or if you were to have to go to the appeals court or Supreme Court or whatever, there is bias on every level. And I don't think that we can assume in this day and age that judges are acting without some kind of political motivation. And that's sad, right? That's supposed to be sort of a sacred office, and you go in really there to represent the law. And I think now a lot of people are prepared to believe that judges operate with their own personal beliefs sort of front and center, maybe not in a way that they were originally intended to.
Well, there was that article, that letter that was surfaced of Larry Summer, who was the Harvard president, and he was Obama's something secretary as well. He was in the Obama administration. But when Obama was considering appointing Sonia Sotomayor, he wrote a letter saying that I would caution you against this, knowing her. Not only is she not as smart as she claims to be, but she is hyper-partisan, and she gets very, very bitter, and a little bit, I don't think she used the word vindictive, but he was warning, like, I wouldn't put this person on the court. And so you're right. I mean, everyone has their certain biases, but even Larry Summer back in the day was warning Obama, and we were a more tolerant and happy nation going back 15 years or 12 years, however long it's been. But even he was warning, like, yeah, this is not the best person for the courts. So, yeah, the courts are becoming as partisan as everything else is, unfortunately.
The courts across the board are, as we've mentioned many times, when it comes to a lawsuit, you say to your lawyer, like, hey, I've got this case. They say, okay, well, what jurisdiction you file in? Because you file it here, you lose. You file it here, you win.
Yeah.
The judges here are Republican. The judges here are Democrats. That'll determine it.
Yeah, and the environmental lawyers do this all the time. Every environmental lawsuit is always filed in the same courts because they know the judge will
Be sympathetic.
And so you see again these rulings of the North Slope of Alaska, but they filed it in San Francisco, and you say, well, that's really odd. I wonder why they filed it in Hawaii. That's really odd. Why? Because they know the judge is going to rule in their favor. So and it shouldn't be that way, right? Like the bridge should be able to rebuild. All of these things are spinning out of control because the system is just too damn big for any one person, let alone someone who's half with us like Joe Biden, or 10% with us like Joe Biden. No one person can manage this system the way, in addition to the military and the pharmaceutical pressures and it is way too big, and because it's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be one big thing in D.C. I wish I could start a party called like the Federalism Party, but I don't know what the hell to call it. But like the 10th Amendment Party, to go back to states and the rights of states. I know now someone's going to say like, oh, so you think the Civil War was constitutional? I'm not declaring independence or any state or separation, but there is a need for states to reclaim their power and take it away from Washington, D.C., which is trampling on people's rights.
And I think there is actually a renaissance of interest in individual states in America. And sometimes I wonder if it was COVID, because people couldn't travel internationally. So the road trip kind of became a thing again, and people were going from state to state or observing sort of the way different states, whether it be they were going between states for personal reasons because they were moving and relocating, or just to travel and kind of get outside the house, if it made people appreciate that we actually have a system that allows for effectively kind of small countries to operate near each other and have fluid relationships in a way that, being completely governed from Washington, D.C. doesn't allow. I mean, I even see this in sort of appreciation for regional events or regional music or regional slang. If we could appreciate the states individually, as opposed to being like, we're all just going to listen to D.C. and kind of become one semi or pseudo homogenous operation, it would be better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's jump to this classic Kamala Harris speech from July 14th, 2023, and I would like you all to listen to what she has to say. Here you go.
Because think also about the impact on not only the local economy, not only on an investment in the entrepreneurs and innovators from and in the community, think about the impact on something like public health. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. Because think also of
I'm just going to real quick before anyone says anything. I want to play it one more time because I want to see what the audience says before anyone says anything. Just let me play it one more time.
Energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
There you go, everybody. There you go.
Does the text actually say reduce population?
Yes.
She literally said reduce population. When we invest in reduce population.
More children, reduce population.
Mm-hmm.
More of our children, though, the ones who we don't kill, right? Or the ones who we do allow to be born.
Or the ones that we bring in from
Yes.
other countries.
Our children will have clean air, and because we got rid of the bad ones. We got rid of those ones.
You know, when we
reduced
have
the
fewer
population.
children and fewer people generally, more kids can drink water.
Yeah.
Why don't you have an abortion?
Yeah.
Have you talked to your doctor about if abortion is right for you? Maybe you shouldn't have kids. It really does seem like Democrats hate their voters.
Yes.
Like they're just showing up there and being like, hey, everybody, you should all get abortions. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of a mean thing to say to somebody. You know what I mean?
You should get abortions. Also, you shouldn't have children because the environment. That's
Have
very
you-
bad and selfish of you.
have
and
you
also,
considered-
you should not talk to your families, and you should get divorced, and also you should continue to fall apart.
Have
That's
you
what they
perhaps
want.
considered getting an abortion and then sterilizing your children? That's another Democrat talking point.
That would be a great way to reduce the population and protect the environment.
Of
It's a win-win.
Democrats. Exactly.
It's a win-win. Do you remember back in 2019 again during the debate when was it Julian Castro who talked about abortion for transgender men? And it was like, that's how far we've come, is that we are now, we have a presidential candidate who wants to protect the rights of transgender men to get abortions. It was like, abortions for everybody. No live babies. Never again. No live babies.
But this is a classic because it's from a year ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people brought it up when she said it, but she said it. And the funny thing is, if we bring up on the show, like, hey, Kamala Harris said that they're investing in reducing population, the media will say it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And they'll make up some excuse as to why, no, Kamala meant reducing population suffering, but she misspoke.
Yeah.
She misread the prompter.
They'll cover for her 100%.
Or you just didn't give the full context, right? You didn't give the full context of her quote, and you taken out of context, and that's just what they always
And maybe
say.
it's even a cheap fake.
It would be a great question, Madam Vice President. Loved your talk. Quick question: when you talk about reduced population, how would we go about doing that as a government?
Crickets.
I guess you could send people to war, maybe to a meat grinder. That's one way to reduce your population. You could let them.
Oh, I know. You have a game show with 3 doors. And behind one of the doors, it's pitch black. And when you step forward, you just fall right into that meat grinder Ian mentioned.
And then give everyone a ticket.
That reduces population. Nah, in all seriousness, they're talking about discouraging people from having kids. They're talking about abortion. They're talking about finding ways to have so people do not have kids. I do not believe, because a lot of people think that there's like a grand conspiracy to literally cull the human population. When Bill Gates comes out and talks about stuff, he's telling you exactly what he thinks. He's not hiding it. He says we want to reduce population growth. We want to make population growth go way down. And that's what they're doing. That's their advocacy. They want people to not have kids.
It's very
They
first
write
order.
news articles saying don't have kids.
It's like if people are making too much waste, therefore less people. That's like first order idiocy. Figure out what to do with the waste. It's a lot easier than trying to make less people. And it's a lot more fulfilling and rewarding
Or
than
teach
making less
people how to build rocket ships. And then we'll send people to Mars where they can colonize and we can expand human civilization into the stars. How about that? Shout out Elon Musk.
Yeah.
No dreams, no ambition, no way to solve things. Must destroy.
How about we just do like a sorry, but you're going to Mars thing? You know what I mean?
Speaking of, there's a tweet that keeps going around. What would you guys name the first city on Mars? Have you thought about it? Anymore?
Mars City.
Mars City? All one word?
First city?
No, Mars City.
Marsylvania.
I like Marsylvania.
Marsylvania is a good one.
I don't know.
I want to call it daikon. D-A-I-K-O. Named after the vegetable we'll plant all over the place to fix the soil before.
Nah.
Yeah. It's named after food.
No, it
Because
needs
everyone's like,
something
we'll
better
name it
than
Elon. We'll name it after people. It's like, dude, we got to name it after the food, after the plants. That's why we're even here to begin with.
It'll probably
No,
be
Atlantis.
Star City.
Star City?
Star City, because that's what he's naming everything.
Oh, right.
Starship, Starbase.
Oh, call it- no,
if it's
no,
Elon,
no,
he's
it's
going to name it after
It'll
his
just be
baby.
X.
It's going to be
Yeah.
X-Town.
It'll be built in the shape of an X.
Yeah.
And it'll be like
Completely mismanaged in like poor city planning.
Just see
It's like in order to get from one point of the X to the other, you have to go to the city center and then go around. It's just,
people who live in Boston and rely on that public transportation are like, this is our nightmare.
to be fair, if it was an X with a circle around
I'm talking about.
then you could have a train that goes
and
all
a
the way around.
three-dimensional X too, or it's like goes through.
It will be
everywhere you
interesting
look.
to see which one of his kids he likes the most when he starts naming cities after them. I mean, he's got at least 12 now.
Little X.
X2, X3, 4, 5.
He just only likes that one kid.
I don't know why I thought daikon. It came to me in a dream. It just hit me like
It's a vegetable?
And then I looked up, what does daikon even mean? I looked it up. It's a
How
turnip.
about Aubergine City?
Aubergine?
Yes.
That's what the Aussies call, and the Brits do as
Brits.
well,
Yeah,
right?
it's eggplant.
Yeah.
It's a French word for
The
it.
thing about daikon, I started reading about it. I didn't even know
Pamplemousse.
what it was, but
It's one of the best
actually
French words.
you plant
Yeah, it is. I
daikon.
actually have pamplemousse right here.
You plant daikon and then you don't harvest it, and it dies and then fertilizes and breaks up the soil on its own. So that's what I'm thinking. We
It's
plant
just all
on
iron.
Mars.
Though. That's the
Have
problem.
you
What's that?
heard-
It's all iron. Mars.
a lot of iron dust. It's
That's
on the
why it's
surface,
red.
so that's the dust on the
Right.
surface. So
Ian, have you
underneath there's water.
heard about this
But it's
thing
not
going on?
Mars doesn't have enough gravity to sustain an atmosphere. So we'd have to build pod cities and live underground.
Yeah, at first probably for sure.
Have you
Or
heard
like
about this
above,
thing
below.
going on in West Virginia where, and I think it's Appalachian Botanical Company is doing it, but they're planting lavender fields on old coal mines to help fix the soil because a lot of times there's sort of a base level of like how it's supposed to be left, but there are issues there, and so they're using it to produce plants, which then they turn into products and sell to people. I find this really fascinating.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if you've
Lavender?
heard about this.
I have not heard about that. No.
This is a terrible segment, and I will do more research on
So
it.
remediation. No way, this is the best segment on planet
Well, I
Earth.
find it really interesting because it's about like, hey, how we as a community can go back to sort of turning the land into something. I mean, I think the purpose of people being on Earth is to use, create, renew, and kind of keep cycles going. So if they're able to make a small business out of this, that's fascinating.
Paul Tascalo says Mars-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago.
That's good.
So,
I still like Marsylvania.
Yeah,
Anna
Mar-a-Lago.
Claire, are they-
Pennsylvania.
with the lavender fields, are they? It's where like there used to be caves where they're mining coal.
Yeah, it's I don't know what the qualifications for the land are, but basically West Virginia is famous for its coal mines, and their coal mines that have been shut down, and the companies that have left them or sold them, whatever. The soil is not like in its best state; it has issues, and so they're planting lavender fields, and then they're harvesting it and using it, turning it into different things. And it's sort of this business that I think is kind of unique to West Virginia. I mean, I wonder what kinds of possibilities there are if we were to look at these things as cycles and not just like, oh, you had a coal mine there and so now we hate this state. I mean, that's how I feel like the Biden administration treats coal dependent places. Like they are sort of done and gone from the past.
I'm wondering if the added like biomatter would cause these mines to collapse, because that's a real risk, and especially around here on the Eastern Seaboard is old coal towns where you build a neighborhood on top and then sinkhole.
A lot of them are closed formally in some way because
they?
of that kind of concern.
Do you, with Power for the Future, your company, do you guys get into the mining industry at all?
Oh God, yeah. I've been to a ton of coal mines and reclaimed mines, and I've walked on reclaimed mine sites that you would have no idea that X number of years ago this was, whether it's an open pit mine or more like you have in West Virginia where you're actually 3,000, 2,000 feet underground. But yeah, I've seen mine sites that were reclaimed, and this is part of the responsibility of the mine is to reclaim the land, and you have no idea that used to be a mine, and they do a brilliant job at it, but they never get any credit for it because it's just more fun to demonize and blast. I wouldn't be surprised if when you do reclaim a mine, if the soil is maybe not conducive to growing corn. I don't know.
They said it's like the chemistry of it, like you need to kind of fix the soil, and so the lavender is able to take out whatever heavy metal or whatever the issue is.
But again, you said something just earlier that I want to latch onto when we were joking about the rocket ships and all that, and Hannah Claire, you said something like they never have any hope, right? And I think that's what we're missing so much from our conversations. It's Kamala Harris talking about, we have to reduce population. There's never talk about aspirations to go to Mars, or how do we take this soil and do something with it, or how do we turn daikon into we've lost the idea to dream about anything positive, and no, we haven't. This room hasn't, certainly by any means. You guys are all dreamers, but our political leaders have. Everything is so, we're going to die right now unless we vote for more. Everything is so apocalyptic and depressing.
They're investigating their inner selves. That's why your personal truth and your identity is so important to you, but they're not investigating their environments. Like, I think there's like a saying about how we still don't know what's in our oceans, like the amount of unexplored territory that's beneath water. That's why Atlantis is such a popular talking point, because people don't know.
But I think part of this is the obsession with self and forcing everyone to think about themselves constantly all the time is part of the intentional destruction of society, right? Like if you're, like you're saying, if you hear everything is awful and this is the end of times and democracy and whatever else, you're fearful, right? You're scared and you're kind of looking for immediate relief. And so anyone's able to kind of offer you pseudo solutions and might be able to temporarily get you to vote for them until they can create another crisis that gets you scared again, and it's on the cycle. I'm talking about you, Democrats. But I think it is a big difference, and I've said this about the Trump campaign a couple times. I really do feel like when I've seen Trump speak, and I've been able to see him a couple different times over the years, it is much more about like, we're going to do this thing, we're going to accomplish this. And I know there are flaws to everyone. I'm not saying Trump is totally perfect or that everything in his administration will turn it around, but the messaging feels very different from every Democrat that I see run, that is like, you got to be scared of that guy, you have to be fearful, and they're coming for your rights, and it's much more fear and individual focus. And when we talk about these things, like being able to say, well, why don't we build a rocket, or why don't we, figure out what does reclaiming a coal mine look like, and what are our possibilities, and what cool thing can we do with this? That kind of hopefulness is someone who is solution oriented and believes that the world they're in is worth pursuing and investing in. And I think so much of what culture has fed people right now is to say, like, just focus on yourself and what you can get out of this and how it benefits you and what your issues are, and don't think beyond that. And that's a very oppressive mindset to have, because it doesn't allow for any creativity or imagination.
That was so well said. It really was. I mean, you summarized exactly what I'm thinking.
You're my favorite guest today.
No, I mean, and you nailed it. And that's where my dislike for President Biden stems for. Again, I joked earlier that I'm the oldest one in the room, and so I've been following his campaign for
he didn't challenge you on that
for a very long time. Because I know for a fact. But I mean, Joe Biden, when he was in his lucid days, told a crowd of young black kids, Mitt Romney's going to put you all back in chains, right? Everything was you're going to die. People are out to get you. His pride talk, or really Jill gave it, like they're coming after you and they're going after your rights, but we're going to fight. Everything is, the whole world is out to get you. And everything is negative. Everything is fearful. The environment's out to get you. Everyone's is on the brink of death, but for the government that is going to protect you. And boy, it's just such a dour and miserable message to tell you people over and over again.
I see it like as a constant state of triage. Like if someone's bleeding out, you don't have time to think about the future. You've got to just fix the problem. And it's like a state of constant triage, mental triage. Joy Reid was talking a few days ago, and she was like, we, as Democrats, we're scared. We're always afraid. And I don't want to misquote exactly what she was like, just blatantly saying we're terrified. She's like bringing other people like into her cult of fear. And it was just so sad to watch.
But they're the ones with the hammers who go around smashing everything up while claiming they're scared.
Right. I was going to say, they're triaging while also like cutting you somewhere else so you continue to bleed.
Because if you don't need to heal, if you don't need triage, but someone that's all they know how to do, they're going to end up injuring you in order to triage you. It's a perpetuating cycle of obsessive.
Do you know stories about like firefighters who become obsessed with then they kind of get into pyromania? Like they start lighting fires for the glory of being like, I have saved everyone. Like that's the Democratic Party right now.
My dad one time said,
I don't know if it's like a huge thing, but it's a story I've heard before that there's occasionally people who will like create a crisis so they can come in and be the hero and save it. And that's the DNC completely all the time.
That's like Munchausen syndrome. My dad was a fireman, and Tim's father also was a fireman. But my dad, one time I was asking him about fire, he was like, you got to love it to kill it. And I was like, oh, God, that's deep, dude. But he never went so far as to light the fires, but he did start to gain like a love of the danger of the enemy.
Right.
Like obsession, almost obsessive love with the thing that he had to destroy.
Well, I'm sure for firefighters in particular, it's like you have to respect that this is a very serious thing. It's incredibly hot. It has the ability to do whatever. And so you're sort of recognizing that it's a real threat. There's sort of a weird kind of respect there. But, I don't think Democrats respect their voters when they try to intentionally keep them scared and compliant. I don't think that that's the attitude you want. And I think as a culture, it's extremely toxic. It is cancerous to the moral spirit of the country. If you feel like every day you are not valued and everything's about to fall apart and, anything you love could be taken from you, then why pursue anything great? Why pursue a better life? Because really it's all, your motivation is not there. There's nothing to live for.
Obama was great at giving people hope in the beginning. Hope and change was his campaign.
Well, he said it, but did he actually give people hope?
Well, no, people just liked the warm, fuzzy feeling.
He gave me hope in 2008. Really? I was like, okay,
Can we get some water? Can we get some water over here? Remember, people were always fainting at his events, and he'd call out,
a hero.
We need some water. And, like,
when
he's
Trump,
turning up the thermostat so everyone falls over.
When Trump was running in 2016, one of my biggest criticisms was that I felt like he was perpetuating the fear, that he was like, things suck. Everything's bad. Everything's a problem. We got to make it good again because it all sucks. And he doesn't do that anymore. Like he's changed. I've seen him change a lot in the last 7 years.
He's talking about golf swings.
Yeah, and at least he says his retribution is going to be making is going to be making the world better.
Success, yeah.
And which is way better than being like, my retribution is going to be get the bad guy, like go destroy the evil. He's not obsessed with the danger and the destruction anymore as much as he used to be, which is great.
I think social media has made it so lucrative. On Pop Culture Crisis, we call it the trauma economy, right? So it's just so, and we talked about sad fishing, Hannah Claire, right before the show started, right? People love the sob stories. No one wants to see the cat get saved out of the tree anymore. They want to see the car crash. They want to see the house on fire.
I like seeing the cat get saved out of a tree.
Well, the cat getting saved out of the tree, you're like, wow, that's awesome. Like that guy stepped up and did something and helped that cat. I watched a video with this guy who's like he's like a tree climber. He like cuts limbs off trees when they're dead, and so he's good at climbing them. And so he has made this sort of a side hustle where he saves cats from trees. And
cats gotta stop climbing trees. What are they doing?
Look, cats, they can't be tamed. But the thing is, ultimately, the goal of these things is to say like, wow, there was a problem and you fixed it. That's good. Whereas I don't think that's what Biden's saying. Like, I get what you're saying about Trump. There is a level of like calling out the problem, being like, things are bad. It can produce anxiety. On the other hand, his whole thing was make America great again. He was like, we can fix it. That's a very positive message to put out. Being like, they're coming for everything you love. And the only thing you can do is vote for me. And by the way, I fell asleep maybe on a debate stage and couldn't keep my words together. Like, this is not, that ain't it, Chief.
There's a new phenomenon of videos of guys doing lawn work. Have you ever seen these landscaping? And they'll like speed it up
Yeah.
and then they'll go in with like cut the things. I mean, talk about making things better, solving problems, and making money doing it.
That's my favorite thing when you walk around, and there are a lot of towns in this area that are like this, where, you know, they were maybe prosperous back in the day, fallen on hard times, but people are coming in and starting to like fix up older homes, and you see them like planting flowers. And like, I feel like there's one neighborhood I walk in where every time I walk through it, I feel like I can see just a little bit of change. Like someone is just taking pride of the house that they just bought, and they're pouring into it. Like that's what you want to see. You want to be on the cusp of things getting better. And I think that, again, requires messaging hopefulness, not just like, Daniel, the world is falling apart.
I love you.
But for me,
Threat to our democracy. I mean, just it's been 4 years of the threat to our democracy, threat to our democracy. The Supreme Court. I just once would love to see a powerful Democrat in an official statement just speak with a normal tone, right? I disagree with the Supreme Court decision. I thought it was not correct. I would side with Sonia Sotomayor, but the court has spoken. Every Democrat was, the court has been hijacked by the right-wing extremists. Everything is so over the top. Everything is it becomes exhausting after a while.
I think that's a really good point, because also, if you're in crisis, who are you looking towards? The person who is screaming and like panicking and hyperventilating, or the person who's staying calm and being like, we're going to fix this?
Yeah.
And they're messaging hysterics and then expecting you to trust them to make good decisions.
What's Bernie been saying? Because he used to be pretty calm and straightforward.
He used to, but Bernie's also 86 at this point. I mean, 88.
His iconic mittens crossed
I
arms
wouldn't be
moment
surprised if Bernie's hitting his end of the rope as well. I mean, these are a lot of old folks, and Biden has introduced a whole new. I mean, obviously the president is term limited, but age limits, cognitive tests for elected officials. I mean, we've talked a lot about term limits in the House and the Senate. I would go back to the Dianne Feinstein example. She was not retiring. She was lucid enough to know, oh, I'm the senator. I don't know what we're voting on, but I'm not stepping aside.
Even when she made her announcement that she was going to retire, do you remember this story? They made the announcement official from her office. The press release went out, and then a reporter asked about it, and she was like, I'm not retiring. Oh, they didn't tell me that. It was it was honestly so sad, because it was like, let her retire and like live her life. Do you think anybody at this table, because I don't know, there's an heir apparent for Bernie's movement?
Nope.
Or is it too cold?
Oh, yeah, right.
I don't know who.
Cenk was way too like chill for the Democratic Party.
Too chill or
Chill. Yeah, he was towing the line between. He was trying to play progressive and establishment Democrat at the same time, and I can understand trying to have some kind of unity, but it don't work.
Andrew Yang. I'd like Andrew. I think Andrew Yang could be a spiritual successor to Bernie.
You mean Eric Yang?
I haven't met him. Eric Yang.
I haven't met
him yet, though.
Not anymore. Andrew Yang had
Bernie-
this whole thing after Biden's debate, and he's like, we need to defend him. He's lost the plot.
And also, like, what Democrat out there is a socialist with multiple houses?
Yeah, AOC wants to be the heir apparent, but
Maybe.
but
To the Bernie movement, or just to anything?
Bernie is a lot more likable than AOC is. I mean, she had that rally with Bernie Sanders to help Jamal Bowman just a couple days ago. It was only the three of them.
I got to say it though, but when she jumped up on stage and pulled her hair down and was screaming, I don't know who gave her that advice, but there is there are character personas. There's a reason why in movies they cast people, because if you was it Tom Hiddleston's his name, right? He plays Loki, and he originally tried to be Thor. I'm sorry, but that guy could not be Thor. Thor is played by what's his face?
Chris Hemsworth.
Who's like super tall and jacked
And looks like Thor.
and looks like Thor.
Actually,
so Tom Hiddleston.
Thor plays Chris Hemsworth,
Right. So the thing is, like, if you get Tom Hiddleston to put on this, you can Google search the videos of him doing the test screenings or whatever, and it's like, yeah, no, it doesn't work. When AOC goes up on stage and another one, when she plays this, it's like, it don't work.
Yeah, it's
and
weird.
It's not you.
Because I thought she was messaging like she's this cool, suave girl in politics, and that did not seem cool or suave in any way.
No, that struck me as back to the fly killing.
Fly Hunt 2024.
As someone who is from Queens, that struck me as a rich girl from Westchester playing the part of what a Queens Puerto Ricana should behave like. And so she was playing a caricature. She's not from the area she represents. She's maybe lived there for a little while. But I mean, if I decided to run for office from my district in rural Virginia, and then suddenly I showed up with like a bolo tie and I had a lasso around my belt, people would be like, calm down. Like, yes, you're a sheep farmer, and I actually do have boots and a hat.
Nice.
You
no
are,
bullwhip,
in
though.
fact,
But
a
it's
legitimate shepherd.
But slow your roll a little bit. So yeah, that was embarrassing. That was also desperation. Jamal Bowman knew he was going to get crushed, and he did. But that was embarrassing.
What about Hakeem Jeffries? I know the Democrat base unites around him, but I don't really know how old he is.
He's not
I
prominent.
don't really hear him speak. That's what I'm saying.
He's B tier. You know what I mean?
It's got to be AOC. It's got to be
AOC maybe.
Yeah, he was the conciliatory choice because Pelosi had lost the House again. I think she's the only speaker who came back after losing. Normally, after you lose the majority and you're no longer speaker, you quit. But Pelosi was like, no, I'm coming back a second time. And she got the job again, shows you how powerful she is. And I think they didn't know who else to pick as minority leader. So they were like, he's harmless. Probably the same reason why they picked Biden in 2019.
I mean, that was the thing of all
He's
three of their leadership, that they had sort of been waiting in their wings, and the older crowd was prepared to make an exit. They're like, might as well go now, and you're fine. It wasn't. It didn't seem like super enthusiasm. To answer your question, it looks like he'll be 54 this year, so he is relatively young. But again, like I think there is. I think there is a battle for the soul of the Democrat identity in America and what its positions are going to be going forward. And, you did see this with the Republican Party to a certain extent under Donald Trump. I mean, the division between the America First versus like old guard Republican is real. And I think it has sort of, in some ways, shaken out. It's not at its peak sort of infighting level as it might have been in the past. But the Democrats are the party of compliance, and they don't think they expected to face the ideological questions that they've had to over the last couple of years, especially if we see an increase in an interest in populism and a return to more federalist division of powers where we want the states to have more say than the federal government. I don't think the Democratic Party is prepared to handle it, and so I don't think they have a person ready to jump to the helm because they don't know where they want their ship to go.
No, and in 2019, again, I'm going to always go back to this because that's when Biden emerged, right? He came out of retirement to defeat Trump. Pre-COVID, Trump was soaring in popularity. The economy was doing great. They needed someone to run against him in 2020. And they had, I think it was 24 people. And that was the explanation was, wow, they have a really deep bench, right? They had Kirsten Gillibrand, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, right? So they had young people. They had diverse people. Andrew Yang, right? They had all sorts of ages.
What about Eric Yang?
Where Eric was running too. Joaquin Phoenix, Joaquin Castro. Everyone was running for the nomination. Where are they now?
I don't know. Where are they? Literally,
where they had such a deep bench just 5 years ago, and now they are struggling for one person that they can reconcile behind. It's supposed to be vice president, and they can't do that.
And I think it really is because their party is losing its own identity.
Completely fractured.
We're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, click join us to become a member and support our work directly because this show is made possible thanks mostly to viewers like you. Let's go. Smash that like button. Clint Torres with the first Super Chat saying, howdy, people.
Howdy, Clint.
Howdy, Ian. Hope y'all are having an America F yeah MAGA month. Please celebrate irresponsibly for me as I'm out of the country and unable to participate properly.
Well, I'm going to take a hot sauna, but and it's not going to be irresponsible. It's going to be totally responsible.
You need to set off fireworks, Ian?
I don't know about that, actually. Yeah, I'd probably drive to Ohio, go spend some time with the family, maybe light off an explosive or two. Maybe not. I don't know.
Do you dye your sheep red, white, and blue to celebrate?
No, but I hung I put it on my Instagram. I hung a flag on the side of the barn, and it's enormous. I think it's like 14 by 20. It's gigantic, and it's huge, and you can see it from every road.
Hot take. I don't like fireworks. Do you guys like fireworks? I don't like them. I've always wondered, what do people love these things for? They go out and they go, yay, explosion, yay. And it's like being at rock concerts and everyone's like screaming and all in unison. Like
it's Ian. What? It's okay to like things.
It's what?
It's okay to like
No,
things.
Ian's very countercultural. He's very different.
Like, what is it about giant explosions in the sky that are like rapturous?
You don't like fireworks and you don't like rock concerts.
Well, I like listening to the music, but I don't like screaming and like,
So you don't like people having fun.
Is that fun?
Why do I like fireworks?
Is watching a drummer.
I like fireworks because, first, you can light them, and they do different things. You can get the little UFOs where it's like a little disc, and it's got two facing different directions, and when you light it, it shoots rockets and then spins, goes flies in the air.
Which is
are great.
wheels.
Those are fun. Roman candles. You shake them, go poof,
Which are very dangerous, by the way. Be careful. We weren't allowed to use those.
You got to be
Yeah,
careful.
your
It's true.
friends.
But you can aim them and shoot them in the air. Then you've got bottle rockets, which are fun because you also can put them in bottles and you light them yourself. And they launch in the air and you watch them pop. And it's fun
played with
because
so many bottle rockets.
you're participating. Now, why do I like watching big fireworks displays? Because they do cool things where a single mortar goes up and you see an explosion of all of these different colors, and then all of a sudden, the mortars you couldn't see pop, and it makes a picture in the sky. And you're like, man, that's really cool. How'd they do that? That's cool. They have this big thing that launches all with perfect timing so that you're looking in the sky, and you'll see all of this red, white, and blue. And then all of a sudden, what you don't see because they're too small are the other mortars go boom, and then all of a sudden there's stars next to it. That's so cool.
So the reason we do giant explosives on the 4th is to remember the cannons and the artillery for the War of Independence.
I don't believe that's accurate.
No.
Just fireworks were celebratory.
Bombs bursting in air, isn't
I
that what
think
it's
it was
about?
Thomas Jefferson who wrote, or was it Ben Franklin? No, it was John Adams who wrote, like, this day should henceforth be celebration with fireworks and
Fireworks were just for celebrating.
He wrote, like, when the Declaration was signed, like, this day, like, fireworks should be part of the. I think that's always why it's been the. I mean, they were always for celebration, but he specifically, I'm pretty sure it was John Adams, specifically said, like, this day should be celebrated with picnics and sporting events. And I have to find the exact quote. By the way, my
I'd be
favorite Roman
interested to
candle videos are when the dog grabs the Roman candle and starts running around the yard. I always love that.
I was just
There are some really amazing fireworks
grab some
shows
more.
like set to music and stuff. It's
Yeah.
very cool.
All right. Amos Moses says, would you kindly read my super chats? I experienced the most ignorant or evil person. The argument was, if you need a book to tell you not to kill, you're a bad person. I asked, what about unborn humans? They then asked about an unbaked cake. I said if it was a gay cake, they would force a Christian through the labor of cake baking. Then they defended the gay cake. Am I crazy or WTF? I think it's hard to follow. It's a lot.
But I love that you feel passionately about something.
Yeah, I'm glad
That's
you're
great.
venting. Yeah.
John Adams, it ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shoes, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore.
Ooh, that guy's a badass.
So fireworks, the ultimate illumination.
We need more leaders that write things like that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, he didn't write down everything. And so I'm sure at some point in his life, he had some crude joke.
Like LOL.
No, I'm saying like Ben Franklin singing out with his
sure.
buddies, and he's like,
Drunk as hell.
yeah, and he says some crude joke about women or something, and then and they all laugh, and you need to write it down.
Yeah.
It's like, why would he? You know what I mean? Now we're in the area where everything you do is written down or spoken or recorded. So, we have these great quotes where it's like, the fathers of this nation have henceforth birthed the greatest creation. And you're like, wow, so honorable and noble. And then you have like Ian Crossland on Twitter being like, sometimes my cat farts and it scares himself.
Yeah, I'll talk about poop online a lot.
And then it's just like,
weird.
See, I'm sure Ben Franklin was talking to his buddy at one point in his life because the dude lived to be like 80 something. And he was like, my dog once farted and scared himself.
And all the women he had sex
And the
with.
dog,
out of wedlock
and he just never wrote it down.
How many illegitimate children did he have?
A couple.
One of my friends was like, she was reading his memoir or a story of his life, and she was like, he was America's first F-boy.
Yeah. All right, let's grab
Keep
some
it
more.
PG because his family's listening.
Vasya Bryansk says, just wanted to say hi and thank y'all for helping keep me motivated to get my CDLA permit the other day, along with the quartering and Mike Rowe.
Congrats.
Nice job.
Yeah, here. Raymond G. MAGA Stanley Jr. says, Lincoln once said, quote, my dream is of a place and a time where America will once again be seen as the last best hope of Earth. The OG of MAGA. Hope everyone has a beautiful tomorrow. Forward the line.
Thank you, Raymond.
Great line.
Alex Gray says, Tim, consider having on Depressed Ginger. Who's that? Who's that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I've never heard.
Ginger.
No idea.
Is that Jen Psaki?
Is it a
He's
vegetable?
welcome to come on.
Pisaki. All right. Millennial Republic says, watching the MSM do, what does it say? Damage, because it says damage. Damage control on the scissors lies, I think it's typo, their lies about Biden's health has been glorious. Thanks for what you guys do. Here's $50 for some fireworks. Happy MAGA month.
Nice. Give them all to Ian.
No, Ian hates fireworks and fun.
I'll make sure they find a nice home.
Adam says, Except, Tim,
trash.
it feels like we're playing the card game The Resistance, and the Dems are the bad guys.
Never played it.
We're working on a card game. I don't know where Dane's at with it yet, though. But we should be ready to launch really, really soon.
Nice.
It'll be very fun. It's called Debate Me.
I think I worked on some of those cards. Yeah.
Debate Me is the game. It's going to be fun.
Awesome.
All right. Grofty says, it's MAGA month. Keep your fingers attached. Don't play with fireworks, and don't drink and drive. Love to America, and say hello to your neighbors.
That is some conservative advice, Grofty.
Elf Treehug says, are we doing the World Series of Poker next year? No. I don't like poker tournaments. They're not fun. I don't know, it's not my thing.
Have you done one before?
No.
I've won one. I went all in.
Really?
Look at a couple pocket aces and won, yeah. Took it down to the end. I had a deal with my friend. I'm like, if either one of us win, the TV is going at your house because it was this big, giant screen. So both of us landed at the final table of 12, and I saw him across the table, and I ended up taking all his money and winning the tournament with it. I mean, he lost, genuinely lost. We both wanted to beat each other, but
Yeah.
it's the only tournament I ever played in. I won.
Nice job.
I like cash games.
I said I was going to win before the tournament, too. It's online, a video of me saying, I'm going to win this tournament tonight.
Yeah.
Manifestation. My confidence was off the record.
But I love watching the World Series of Poker. Poker is an interesting game. I think this year's probably going to be the biggest it's ever been. And the top prize, was it last year, like 17 million or some ridiculous number?
Lord.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that big.
10,000 entrants and $10,000
Wow.
to enter. World Series of Poker. And the thing I don't like about poker tournaments, I'll watch the World Series. It's like, dude, there's way too much in poker of guy gets kings and the other guy's got aces and it's over. And it's like, well, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? So I also don't like Magic the Gathering tournaments because the win rate for pros is like 51%. Boring. I like more skill games. Poker's fun. Cash games are fun because you sit down, you can assess the players you're playing against, and you can determine whether or not you're going to be a winning player or a losing player right there. With tournaments, it's not too dissimilar, but it's a different game.
What I like about tournaments is
levels and all that stuff.
you can't buy back in. You might have one or two buy-ins.
There's tons of tournaments with
Some buy-ins, but like it's not like rich guy can bring in
Not true.
50 times the amount of chips of you and then push you out. Like you're kind of on the same.
Sort of true, but there's tons of tournaments that have limited rebuy or unlimited rebuys, and there's tournaments that do unlimited rebuys up to a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And so what people do in those tournaments is they'll sit down and they'll look down at ace queen and I'm all in, and then they'll look down at jack 10, I'm all in, and if they lose they go whatever, buy back, and it's just like whatever.
That's not. It kind of.
I mean, some people like that. You don't got to play that. I don't think the World Series main event has rebuys. I think you're in, you're out, you're out. But it's fun to watch because it's exciting. But it's also not a game where you like. It's 20% luck.
Yeah, it is.
Right. It's about 80% skill,
Rolling
20%
dice.
luck.
I don't like dice.
It's not dice. You've got to know how to play. I mean, if you're playing fast and loose and you go all in with Jack 5 offsuit, you're probably not going to last.
I won the
long.
tournament with a Jack 6 offsuit. Actually, they might have been suited.
There is a viral video coming out from a guy who ended up winning against two guys who had ace king, but he had Jack 5. However, that being said, Jack 5 could be the appropriate play, assuming that these two guys are both playing ace king. They're blocking each other. They're not going to make a pair, and you're going to win. He hit the 5 on the river. He ended up winning. And then some guy got accused of cheating for pulling his chips back because the tournament's poorly managed. So that's another thing about tournaments. I
just realized I won that tournament with a J6. It's all about that J6.
I like cash games. Cash games are fun. You can sit down, you can figure out the players, and if it's not a table for you, you can get up and leave. And there's no strings, and it's just you do your thing. Tournaments, it's like, oh man, if you're in the World Series of Poker main event, you're sitting there for what is it, 14 days? It's 2 weeks.
Oof. Oh wow.
Yeah. It's the 3rd to the 17th, or it might end actually not. It might the main. Yeah, I think it might be that long. I'm not sure. No, I think it might be 10 days.
Wow.
That's a lot of poker.
It's a lot of poker, and then like people get wiped out and they get super tired. But hey, if you win, you win.
Yeah, don't drink when you're playing poker.
I don't got 2 weeks to sit around playing poker. That's not my thing. Play like once a week maybe. Phil Parnell says, Tim, love the long stream morning shows. Maybe keep to Thursday. Also, I'm active military, and there's a group of MTG dudes I work with who would slay your PT standards for that competition. Just saying. Oh yeah. So one idea someone had this morning for a Magic the Gathering tournament was you have to before the tournament starts, you've got to do pull-ups, and the amount of pull-ups you do is how much your HP is in the game. Yeah, Ian gets it. And I said, actually, be a better idea is 10 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, and 10 burpees. And that determines your life total in the Commander game because you have 40 HP in Commander multiplayer. And if you can't do it, you're going to start the game super weak and get knocked out.
And whoever does it first gets to go first.
I like that.
Yeah. Everyone go.
Good idea.
Yeah, 10 pull-ups, 10 burpees, 10 sit-ups, and 10 push-ups.
You guys said MTG, and I thought you were talking about
Marjorie Taylor Greene, exactly.
Kendall Turner, like, what?
That's awesome. The active military group loves Marjorie Taylor
Our
Greene.
group?
That's
No.
awesome.
You know what's weird, though? I have a question for you.
We're nerds.
I'm curious your thoughts on this.
We're the nerds.
Chess players. Watch a chess tournament. What do you see? People of all different shapes and sizes. There are people are average. Chess. You watch a chess tournament. Again, average people. Magic the Gathering. Everyone's morbidly obese.
It's got to be the soda.
Like 80 to 90%. Yeah, but chess players, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Are chess players like getting exercise in because they know it's better for their minds? What about Magic the Gathering specifically has an 80 to 90% morbid obesity rate?
I think because game shops sell diet soda and like Mountain Dew, and like
Back when-
chess places don't.
Cultural
like a
thing, maybe. I don't
library
know.
or something.
Back when Tumblr was a thing, there was a guy whose whole Tumblr was photos of butt cracks at Magic the
That's right.
Gathering. Remember that?
Well, there was
And
a guy.
He would selfie himself with.
No. He would.
It's hysterical.
His friend would take a picture of him crouching down like this next to someone's exposed butt crack.
Because it was a whole bunch of big fat guys.
I
whose
don't
shirts
understand why Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast tolerate that culture in their game. It is a limiting factor for their business. It is hard to get people interested in this game because of things like that.
And the truth is, you need to be sharp. You need to have a really good memory and be good at math to win those games.
You know, the funniest thing is, Allison and I were playing Commander over at Mamba Collectibles in Martinsburg. Shout out. And there's 4 players. And the 2 guys, we know the guy who works there. He's playing with us. He brought it. His friend came to sat down. We're playing 4-player. And Allison says something like, it's the end of my turn. And she's like, I think I have something I can play. Search my library. And we all go, Mystical Tutor. We all instantly knew exactly what card she was looking at just because we know all the cards. And like the amount of land she had available, she said, I think I can play a thing. And we're like, Mystical Tutor. Like we know what you're doing. We know what card you're looking at. There's no other card you would consider playing right now. I just think that's absolutely hilarious that like we'll be sitting at a game and, she's only played maybe like 16, 17 games so far in her life. She's actually pretty good at it. And she'll say something like, I don't know if this guy makes sense. Lighthouse Chronologist. Like, instantly, you can just name the card. But if this culture focused on if Hasbro and they have a hard time. Magic the Gathering, the first trading card game ever made. And now you've got Pokemon, you've got Yu-Gi-Oh, you've got Lorcana, you've got all these other games, and they're massively popular. They're billion-dollar industries. If they just focused on creating something that would inspire younger people, they would sell like hotcakes. So now what Hasbro's telling investors is they have to focus on what's called Universes Beyond, where they've made Fallout, Warhammer, they're making Assassin's Creed. They're like, we have this great game format of Magic the Gathering, but the IP is boring. So we need to go after other IP. And I'm like, the reason your IP is bad is because your community is a bunch of slovenly, morbidly obese people. And I'm not trying to be mean to this community, but it's true. So when young people see this, they're like, I
don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, because you don't want to be the loser in school. So basically MTG has only ever advocated for the people who are not taking care of themselves. You need to have a pro tour where the people are something that young people look up to and they think, I want to be that. Now what they're doing is they're going, okay, how about Fallout instead? Oh, yeah, because Fallout is a separate IP, a separate video game. People will like it, and you're going to buy the cards because you like Fallout. They need to foster their community better. Instead, they've done pronouns. They've banned people. They've made it worse for themselves. Yeah.
I was just thinking about giving creatures pronouns. If it was like a he or a she, her, the creature.
In the Pro Tour, they put the
Creature,
pronouns
he,
under their
creature,
name.
she,
And
that'd
of
be
course,
crazy.
all the pronouns are always the normal biological.
I was kind of lucky to have a group of friends that were really smart in high school and not obese. But it was before obesity became a real thing, like 1994. It was really that high fructose got into the culture right in 1993 and started poisoning.
But explain chess players, man. They sit around all day. So people, there's a big
culture.
There's a big debate right now over what's called, like people call brain sports, esports, chess, card games, and why women aren't in the top ranks of these. If the argument is that men have a biological advantage with muscle mass and bone density, where are the top female chess players and poker players? There's very, very, very few. And so another component of this is, of course, when you look at a lot of these, esports average guys, skinny guys. And I'll tell you this, South Park made that joke where they played World of Warcraft and all got morbidly obese. That is ridiculously false. And if they spent 5 minutes looking into it, they would have actually got it right. And that is, several people died playing MMORPGs because they were wasting away. They play this game to the point of addiction and they don't eat or drink. And so it's actually it's a negative when we used to play World of Warcraft and it's like, hey, we're going to go raid like Encourage or something. And I'm like, bio. And they go, oh, come on, man. It's like, dude, I got to go to the bathroom. And they're like, just wait. And I'm like, I can't. And it was actually because you got 40 people, 39 other people, and they're waiting on you. And so when I played World of Warcraft vanilla, I dropped like 15 pounds. Wow. Because you don't eat or drink. You're sitting there just gaming nonstop, and you're like, oh, I haven't eaten
That's why I'm so
day.
skinny with my life.
Probably. You're playing, what are you playing, StarCraft?
Right now I'm playing backpack battles.
There you go.
Like crazy. Early today, it's like chess. But it's like you're challenging yourself, and then you go PvP and see who did better. And then it's pretty cool.
We weren't, like my brother too, we both weren't eating. We would eat like a half a meal a day, and then just sit there on the computer talking with people. We'd be in TeamSpeak. We'd be hanging out, and we'd just be like, I don't got time to go eat.
I want to give a special shout out to Fan Hots, who's one of my favorite esports players at the moment. It's Fan, H-O-T-S. He plays a lot of Heroes of the Storm. Great guy. Check out his YouTube channel. Brilliant dude.
So Serge says, people who play Magic eat like ish, and the culture encourages it. Also, chess isn't like Magic because you play ahead and plan many, many potential games. They burn tons and tons of calories while playing.
Serge, our producer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
No, you're on vacation.
No, Magic.
got his feet
Magic
up.
burns tons of calories.
Because you're thinking.
Yeah, it's all brain.
Heat. A lot of heat's generated from thought.
It's not just that. It's that your brain uses calories. It takes a lot, And to understand Magic, it's chess and poker combined. So you're not just dealing with a single chessboard where you're planning in advance. All of these pro Magic players, they do the same thing chess players do. They have pro teams, they have managers, and they try to solve decks. And they'll say to the guy who's competing, they'll say, okay, you're going to be going up against in this tournament. The top 3 decks are these decks. Right now, everyone's playing this one. You're going to need this in your sideboard. You're going to need this, and they actually play test out these decks against a bunch of the decks and try and consider what their opponent has at the time. It's very similar. It's just, I think it's the culture. You go to a card shop and they've got Cheetos and Doritos and Mountain Dew in the vending machine, and they're like, eat away, friends. And then they encourage it. The company encourages it. And they get mocked for it. Anyway, we should read some more super chats. All right, let's go. Damage Inc., USMC, there you go. Biden is so good on a bike, let's send him a Segway. I mean, I think he'd do better on a Segway. Heron Gaming News says, Tim, those aren't flies. It's a CIA drone. Also, if anyone is Gandalf, it's Ian. He'd be a divination wizard, and Tim is an eloquence bard in D&D.
It's hardcore.
I don't know if I'd be an eloquence bard in D&D. Perhaps for this show, that might be the case.
You're like a rogue with bard. You're probably a bard rogue.
That's what I was telling. It was funny when Matt Walsh was here. Did you see that one?
No.
I called him a paladin, and he was like, paladin? What? And I was like a holy knight, like a knight of retribution. He goes, well, I think it's a compliment. And I was like, well, it is, right. My point is, you're like a paladin of holy retribution. You do not tolerate these people and these things. You demand they stop. And we were talking about abortion and sterilization. I was like, I'm a rogue. I'm kind of like sitting back and be like, whatever gets the job done.
I'm a bard. I've thought a lot about it recently.
A bard?
That's my highest level skill. I'm also a wizard, but mostly a bard. I used to think I'm a sorcerer, but it just turns out I'm a bard. I use my charisma
Definitely not a sorcerer.
No, it's more bardic spells.
Yeah, sorcerers are like naturally talented.
Yeah, I've had to learn. I mean, it's my acting skills and all that crap.
But like Trump would be closer to what, like, I'm not saying he would be, but someone who's just this naturally X Factor person, that's like a sorcerer,
Trump's a sorcerer. He might be a wizard.
No. Wizards study, and they learn how the universe works. Sorcerers have a natural just talent within them that they can just do it. Yeah. Yep. I guess that's partly Trump. Trump's a barbarian.
But he's
definitely not. Yeah, he's definitely not.
He's got intelligence too, like intelligent charisma guy.
He's definitely a sorcerer. Natural talent, charismatic, all that stuff. Yeah, he just knows how to do it. He knows how to speak, and he can speak and just hypnotize people.
Oh, Ivanka was on Lex Friedman's show. I haven't seen the interview yet. It looks cool though. They were hitting it off.
Oh yeah, so that was her first like real public speaking in quite some time. Yeah,
His kids are so smart. I gotta say, that's a really intelligent family. I'm glad I got to know them.
All right, we'll grab a couple more here. What's her name says, more Daniel shows, please. He's always a great guest. Also, Ian is looking so good. Keep up what you're doing, and you'll have a wife in no time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I like you. Very, very, very kind.
I had a sheep for that person.
Brittany Teal says, Tim, you need an assault gun for your fly situation.
I have
Works
one.
great and is a literal blast of salt. Just saying, I do have it, but we cannot spray the studio with salt.
But it just lets out such a little amount.
It adds up.
Oh, I have
We
one.
went
salt the hell
when,
out.
the,
I love it.
when the cicadas were here a couple of years ago. I was running around and now it was bang, and because we were feeding them for the chickens.
Yeah.
So we'd knock them out of the sky, they'd fall. We'd walk up to the trees with gloves on and just shovel them into a jar, and we'd have like 60, 70 of them, and we just chuck them into the chickens and they just annihilate them.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the original chickens of Chicken City are like, they're sitting there telling all the young ones, like, you would not believe what it was like when we were young. Giant bugs as big as your head. And they're like, sure, Dad.
Yeah, I've heard this story.
Yeah, you're right, Dad. Not true.
Actually, an embarrassing assault gun from literally about like 6 hours ago, as my better half and I played How Close Can We Be to each other, shooting the assault gun before it starts to hurt.
Oh.
And like we're at 6, and finally it was like, ow, that's too close. That's too close.
How close is too close?
This was about as close. Like that.
like
That
eight-
actually.
8 feet,
Yeah.
7 feet?
Yeah.
Jeeber says, Mars has an atmosphere, Tim.
stupid.
Helicopters and parachutes work there. Right. The issue, what I'm told, is that gravity is too weak to maintain a dense enough atmosphere with oxygen in it to maintain human life. And so it's got a very weak atmosphere. I don't know how you rectify that. Mars is too small. One theory is to build cloud cities on Venus.
That'd be cool as hell.
Because the gases are so dense, it wouldn't be super hard to create something that would float.
Ooh, so we're talking about those floating cities. Try them on Venus first.
Yeah. And then you could walk off the edge of your city into like a sulfuric gas that just vaporizes you and you die and you get down.
Banished, like
Some-
300.
Some people have been saying that the Earth's core is actually plasma at the center of the iron, the liquid iron. So maybe there's a plasmatic core at the center of Mars, and we could jolt it back to active,
Maybe.
the high frequency or something.
Mars. Well, I don't know for sure, my friends, but what I do know is that you should all smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with all of your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member at timcast.com, because that is what makes this show work. We do the show, we get you guys to become members, the show continues. If you like that, sign up. Follow me on X at Timcast and Instagram at Timcast as well. We got a bunch of cool stuff in the works. The Boonies HQ mini ramp is about a couple more days. We're waiting to put in some more concrete supports because we want to make sure it's shored up. And then we've got this massive mini ramp that is 50 feet long, 4 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot. 2 foot's a kind of a joke ramp, but it's our curb for, you want to try and do like a 360-foot blunt. But we got a lot of really cool stuff in the works. We are off tomorrow for MAGA Day, Independence Day and MAGA month. And we hope you guys all have a very, very good time and celebrate. And then we'll be back Monday. Daniel, do you want to shout anything out?
Yes, and I do want to say I was dead serious when I said how it's great to be with you, because you all do things and you create things and you build things, and you can see that optimism being with you. You're creative and you bring things into reality, and boy, we need more of that. Daniel Turner, Power of the Future, Daniel Turner PTF on X if you want to follow me there. If you have questions about energy, oil, gas, coal, fracking, pipelines, green stuff, shoot me an email, daniel@powerofthefuture.com. I'm happy to answer your questions. And if you like sheep and want to follow the premier Virginia Sheep Farm on Instagram at Bristol Farm Virginia, BRISTOL, at Bristol Farm Virginia. We love to share photos of our sheep, and God bless America. It's great to be with you. We need more patriotism as a virtue. So happy to spend 4th of July Eve with you fine folks. Thank you.
Right on.
Shepherd Daniel Turner, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only. At Ian Crossland. Hit me up on the internet, especially on X these days, because I'm going live for night after night, some nights, and I'll play some music, and we can all jam out, have fun. I like early 90s grunge rock. I really like In Bloom by Nirvana. Apparently, it's one of the only pop songs that hits every note. All 12 chromatic tones.
Really?
According to Rick Beato. If you're not following
In
Rick...
Bloom?
Yeah, In Bloom. And Kurt... Whether or not he knew he was doing that, who knows? He just writes what sounds good. God, what a great song. I've always loved that song. There's this dude, Rick Beato, who does music video, 4.5 million subscribers on YouTube. Follow Rick Beato if you like music and if you love music. He's the man. Anyway, we'll see you later. Have a blessed evening and a wonderful weekend. Tell your people you love them. I'll see you later.
Yeah, have a great Independence Day. Hope you guys are all doing something fun outside and with your community. It's so important that we celebrate. Life's really hard, so you have to celebrate all the time whenever you can. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. So follow Scanner News work at Timcast News. We have an amazing team. I'm really proud to be a part of it. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b. I'm on Twitter at hannahclaireb. Thank you guys for everything you do. Bye, Kellen.
See you later, Hannah Claire. Check out clips while we're off all weekend on Timcast IRL. This Friday, we will have a Culture War episode, Raymond G. Stanley. I saw your question in chat. You can also check out clips on the Tim Pool channel of the Culture War if you don't have time to watch it all.
So, go to Tenet Media on YouTube, subscribe. Friday morning, we have an episode of The Culture War, 2 hours of podcast talking about what it is to be a conservative woman with some conservative women. So check that out Friday morning. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all then.